hail from Seven Sons Farm in Roanoke, Indiana. They're Mid-Easterners, if you will. Seven Sons is a family-run farm that started from scratch and has scaled to a multi-seven-figure direct marketing business. No small feat there. 5 years ago, the family operated a conventional farm using industrial agricultural practices. After a family health crisis, they became convinced of their need to make radical changes in their farming practices and philosophies. In the late 1990s, they embarked on a journey to build a regenerative pasture-based farm focused on transparency with an open door to the public. Due to the overwhelming support they received, they now partner with a fellowship of like-minded farmers to help serve thousands of families with nutrient-dense and ethically raised foods. As the farm-to-fork landscape becomes more competitive each year, especially this year, Blaine and Brooks Hitzfield continue to share lessons they've learned with farmers far and wide. So with that, I warmly welcome Blaine and Brooks. Take it away.
Thanks, Alex. Brooks, you're actually running the slides, but I'll go ahead and introduce things here. So yes, we're thankful to be able to be on and share with you guys today. I think we will get to topics that cover most of the questions that folks were asking. But first and foremost, the way we look at this is that we're all in this together. Someone was asking there about how to balance all the demands of the farm and the marketing business, and we've been there, still there, always trying to balance.
Yeah, that never changes. Never changes.
It never does change. So, but today we're going to share. We started 20 years ago, and it felt like the first 10 years we were just spinning our wheels, figuring out all the wrong ways to do things. And then the last 10 years, it feels like we found some strategies that have allowed us to take off. And that's really what we want to focus on here today, because there is so much to consider, so many different strategies when it comes to digital online marketing. And what we have found is that don't get overwhelmed with thinking you need to know everything. It's really just a matter of knowing the few key things that will move the needle for you. So what we're going to be walking through today, this screen basically summarizes how to take a complete stranger, convert them to a new customer, and then most importantly, especially it applies right now, how do we turn them into a lifetime customer? So how it'll work today is, after this quick introduction, Brooks will talk about how we take strangers, visitors, new people never bought from us, convert them into a customer, and then I'll pick up in the last half of today's workshop on how we nurture those relationships and keep them coming back, which is where where you can really start building a meaningful business over time, and when the magic really kind of starts happening. So we're going to share basically the customer journey and how we look at it and the strategies that we employ all the way down the line here. So Brooks, if you want to hit the next slide, I think this is just a
my keyboard is giving me error sounds. 1 second. Oh, there we go. The mouse pad. All right, we got it.
Wake back up. So as I mentioned, Seven Sons started in the year 2000. You also some of you listening may have heard of GrazeCart, which is actually the homegrown website platform that we started developing in, I think it was before 2016, Brooks, but I think 2016 is when we first launched it to other farms. And by the way, Paul and Gabe Brown were, I think they were the second adopter of the website platform. So we were proud to have them on board as early adopters. So that started about 6 years ago when we launched GrazeCart and started developing that. And basically we were dissatisfied. And this was, GrazeCart has been a key part of what we do. We were not satisfied with most e-commerce tools and how they allowed us to connect with customers and sell perishable foods regionally. Very, very tricky, especially if you have multiple sales channels that allow people to pick up at your farm, pick up at a processor. And then if you offer any kind of online shipping, it gets pretty complicated how to communicate the different buying channels and how the different cost and customer user experiences all work together. So we'll talk about some of that later today. But currently at Seven Sons, we direct market about 800 head of grass-fed beef per year, 600 pasture-raised hogs, and it says here on the slide that we have 9,000 laying hens. I think as of next week, there will be 12,000 laying hens. So that's become a bigger and bigger part of what we do at Seven Sons is with the eggs. And it really is a product that opens the door for a lot of markets. As far as the different sales channels, as I mentioned before, we have an on-farm store. We've had that for about 10 years, and that's about, I think it's closer to 5% of our business. So not a big part of the business, but just a meaningful part of our local business. Up until in March, we had a network of 35 pickup locations that the demand was so high in March, we decided to focus all of our efforts on home delivery. So we closed those pickup locations down in March, and since then have been focused strictly on home delivery. And of course, we still have the farm store. And roughly we ship out about 600 orders per week. Now, that's not at all where it started. This is a picture of us exactly 20 years ago. So this year we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. That's Brooks, who you're going to hear from just as soon as I'm done here. Brooks in the very middle of that sign there.
Want to point yourself out too?
Yeah. And so the challenge here is that we were, as Alex mentioned, a strictly conventional farm. We didn't know anything about direct marketing, didn't know anything about regenerative farming. We were just inspired, and we came across early mentors like Joel Salatin, Alan Nation, Alan Williams. There were several folks that we developed relationships with, and that really inspired us and got us really excited about venturing into pasture-based regenerative agriculture and building a direct market. We really saw a lot of future there. We're very excited, and so we had all kinds of enthusiasm at that point. We closed the doors to our confinement hog operation, which we had a lot of debt in at that time. We transitioned our row crop land to pastures. We built a lot of fencing and infrastructure. And then we borrowed even more money. At that point, the bank was no longer letting us borrow money. So we were borrowing money from friends and family, just trying to make a transition. That all that enthusiasm kind of started to wane as we hit about that third year. And we call this at Seven Sons, and as I talk to other direct marketers, we call this the third year struggle, because you end up your first 2 years, if you're making a transition or you're starting a new farm from scratch, it seems like you end up spending those first 2 years, spending most of your energy, most of your time, most of your capital on building the farm. And by year 3, you now have production ready to take to a customer. You maybe have a full freezer, or you've got animals that have slots and they're all ready to go into the processor. And that's when you find out this whole marketing thing maybe isn't going to be as easy as I thought it would be. And if you're not careful, you can get stuck like we did in that third year struggle for 5 or 10 years. And that's definitely what it felt like for us. Until, as I mentioned before, really the epiphany we had, Brooks, if you want to flip to the next slide, is that we finally wrapped our minds around there's really 3 different things. As you think about all the things you need to do well to be a good, successful at direct marketing, there's really only 3 things you need to focus on. One, you have to have a quality product. And in the food industry, the bar is so low when it comes to producing a quality product. Most of you on this call, if you've been at it for a couple of years, you have that quality product already produced. But it's easy to just continue to focus right there on the farm side and what can I do to increase the quality of that food. But you have to balance that with other factors. So the second thing we have to do well is we have to build a story and tell our story well and build trust with our customers. Now, just like quality, as a local regenerative farm, we're positioned far better. You and I are positioned far better to compete in the economy of quality and trust compared to, the Amazons, the Walmarts of the world, all the new food companies that are starting up, the venture-funded food companies. Guys, we got them beat here. I mean, don't worry about the quality and trust. Now learning to communicate our story, talking about social media and things like that, those are skill sets we need to figure out how we adopt and utilize. But those 2 things are our biggest assets, quality and trust. The problem is, and this is when we finally recognize this as a farm, this is when things finally took off for us. We realized we had to put equal, if not greater, emphasis on convenience, because our problem was inconvenience. And as we talk to other direct marketers, this seems to be that missing link. It's a missing link we had. Is figuring out how to be more convenient to our customers. And matter of fact, if you're like us when we got started, it seems like all of our marketing efforts were focused on, marketing strategies that made life convenient for us as a farmer. So having our customers go, put in a big deposit fee for a quarter or a half a beef, having them travel to our processing location, paying for it by the hanging weight, writing a check to our processor, getting on a waiting list for 6 months or more until we have product ready for them. All these things were completely based around our convenience. We discovered we had to flip that on its head. And once we did, that's when it really began to take off. So, and that's really what this whole customer journey that Brooks and I are going to be sharing with you is how we build a customer journey that, yes, it leverages the two strongest assets we have, quality and trust, but it also solves that inconvenience barrier. And what we find is that digital marketing, internet marketing, it's such a useful sales channel for capitalizing on telling this story and describing the quality and the difference. It's really, really tough. We sell our eggs in Whole Foods in the Midwest. There's 50 some stores. And it is just a challenge to communicate the true value, the difference of what we're doing, and the difference of those eggs sitting next to all those other brands on Whole Foods shelves. Of course, we're biased, but we believe it's a night and day difference. But it's so difficult to communicate that with just a label. A label is such a poor mechanism for communicating value. And so, but when it comes to the internet, there's all kinds of things we can do with YouTube videos. We do a virtual farm tour. We'll get into that later, but talk about a great medium to describe the quality and then go ahead and build a trusting relationship with content marketing to our customers. So the internet works so well at leveraging our biggest unfair advantages, but then it also, through the internet and leveraging, piggybacking on services like UPS and FedEx, that combination has allowed us at Seven Sons to really tackle that missing link of convenience. So that's really what you're looking at right here is really what it has come down to for us after 10 years of our struggling and spinning our wheels, is just recognizing this right here and choosing at least one sales channel that we were going to focus on. And we've been focused on internet marketing for at least the past 10 years, if not longer, and it has served us very well. So Brooks, I think this is where my slides leave off for my part.
Yep.
And you're going to jump in here.
Yep. So yeah, picking up right off of that, and one of the reasons why, we like internet marketing so much and why that's had so much of an impact on our business is because, like Blaine was saying, it levels the playing field with the rest of the competition out there. Because in today's world, you have access to the same tools that everyone else has access to, the ButcherBox, the CrowdCast, those type of companies of the world. You might not have the advertising dollars that they do to, gain awareness as fast, but you can employ similar strategies that those companies are. And because you can compete on those first 2 points of quality and trust so much better than they can, that's going to be your biggest unfair advantages. But you need to figure out how to compete with the tools that they're using to, to acquire customers and keep those customers coming back. So with these next two presentations, really what Blaine and I wanted to do is just pull the curtain back behind our business and share with you guys what are all the tactics, strategies, tools, the real tangible stuff that we're using to acquire a first-time customer and inspire that customer to come back. And I think what's the most helpful about this is, yes, you're going to see examples that are built for our business, so you got to take that and make it real for your business. But what's helpful about this is that we show you all the tools and strategies that we use in a chronological order based off of the customer journey and the customer experience. So, because you can go learn internet marketing from anybody. You can take an email marketing course. You can take a course on influencer marketing. So many different, strategies you can pursue out there. But the tough part is to really understand how do you apply those to your business and make it work for you. So that's what we want to do here. And what we've basically done is we've created a framework looking at our business that represents the image that you're seeing here. And basically what this does is that represents that entire customer journey of what we're doing to take someone who's a complete stranger, doesn't know anything about our business, inspire them to become a lifetime customer. So what you're looking at here, every single block in this framework represents a strategy. So I'm going to focus here on this top portion of this framework. about how do we acquire first-time customers, how do we build awareness for our business. Blaine will come back in on the last half to show what are we doing to build retention into that business. And we'll work through this slowly, but this framework actually does represent something. You might notice that the top half resembles somewhat of a funnel. So I don't know if very many of you have heard of the term before, a sales funnel. It's a common term that's used in the world of internet marketing. And I don't want that to confuse anybody, because a sales funnel is not a tool. It's not some app out there. It's really just a concept that represents the decision-making process that someone has to go through in order to decide to support and do business with you. Okay. And what you want to do is, if you're selling products, you already have a sales funnel in place because you're acquiring customers. What you want to do is you want to make that sales funnel as effective as possible, so that way you can meet people where they're at, build a relationship with them, and more easily inspire them to support your business. So there's a couple of different strategies that we work through to do that. The sales funnel, the way this all starts is, and the way your business starts is, you have to start by thinking about who is your market. So who are the people who are interested in buying the products that you have to offer? So before you can ever acquire a customer, you have to know who your market is. Who are you trying to sell your products to? The last thing you want to do is end up raising a product that nobody's interested in buying. So the primary thing to get right here, we could probably spend an entire presentation on who your market is and determine what products you need to raise for that market. But the main thing that you want to avoid here is you want to make sure that you avoid over diversifying, so over niching, basically producing a product that nobody's interested in buying. You may have heard this quote before from Joel Salatin, who says, "It's okay to be weird. You just can't be too weird. You can be a nudist or a Buddhist, but if you are a nudist Buddhist, that's just too weird." So again, this just falls into that example of making sure that you're producing a product that people are interested in buying, and you're marketing it to them in areas that you're actually meeting those people. So an example I know that we've ran into several years ago is, we had someone come to us who's really excited about a new business idea. He was telling us that he was going to raise 100% grass-fed beef that was also going to be a purebred Wagyu, and it was going to be served organic. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but he's really excited about it because nothing like that exists on the market today. The only problem with that is that he's probably over niched himself outside of a price point that anyone's willing to pay, because there are customers out there who are interested in grass-fed beef. There's customers who are out there who are interested in Wagyu beef, but rarely do you find someone who's interested in all three and would be willing to pay what it takes you to make sure that you're raising a product that fits into all three. So make sure that you're thinking about what product you're raising and how does that fit your customers' needs, thinking about their problems. Make sure that you're producing a product that solves those. So once you've identified that ideal market, the first thing you need to do is start to build awareness with them. Okay, so that's the first phase of this sales funnel here. You're trying to get your business in front of as many people as possible. So again, what Blaine and I are doing here is we're showing you examples reflecting on our business on things that have helped us build awareness with people, primarily on the internet. And there's several different tools that you can use. Of course, there's social media out there. There's many, many examples. We want to go through just a handful here that have been effective for us. When it comes to selling online, one way to build awareness is with Google. A lot of the traffic on the internet originates off of Google. You can go to Google to find an answer to just about anything today. And this can be an effective outlet for you to start to build awareness for your business as well. So we really like Google, and the reason why is because people who turn to Google to look for products like grass-fed beef, local farms and things like that, that person has a lot of intent when they're going to, make those search results. They're looking for, products to buy. They're looking for an answer to their problems, versus when people are browsing around on social media, where they're more so on those platforms to be entertained. So these are just some charts that show the growth that we're seeing. These are the number of search terms that happen during a given time period for these different types of search terms. This is regenerative agriculture. And we hear from a lot of folks who understand the power of Google, and they ask us, hey, if I could just rank #1 for the term grass-fed beef, that would really make the difference for me. And the problem is that a term like grass-fed beef is a highly competitive search term. There's a lot of businesses out there that are trying to compete for search terms like grass-fed beef, regenerative agriculture. So ranking #1 for the search term grass-fed beef is probably a little bit like getting your farm featured in the New York Times. This is very difficult. People are spending a lot of money to do this, but something that you can have an easier, something that's a lower goal that you can attain is what we call local search terms. So search terms like local farm near me or pasture raised chicken near me. These are search results that you're more likely to appear for because of how sophisticated online browsers have become, where they know where people are located and you're more likely to appear in these types of search results. So, and really the first thing that you want to do is try to rank #1 for your own business name. And if you can do that, then you basically will start to slowly build awareness for, basically the things that you need to do to rank #1 for your own farm name, your own business name. Those are foundational strategies that once you've accomplished those, you'll start to slowly appear in other local search results as well. So real quickly, we just want to walk through a few what we call SEO basics. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So optimizing your likelihood to display in search results to help you rank #1 for your own business name. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when it comes to building awareness on Google is registering your Google My Business listing. So this is basically getting incorporated with Google. So this is where you fill out a form, tell Google what it is you do, and then basically that tells Google that you exist. Because if you start a new website online, Google might not even know that that website exists. I think there's 300 websites, Blaine, that are launched every hour. I've seen some statistics like that. And so there's no way Google could possibly become aware of that website as soon as you create it. So registering your Google My Business listing lets them know that that your business exists. It lets them know the products that you have to offer, and you make you so you're more likely to show up in search results. If Google doesn't know you exist, then there's no chance you're going to show up in search results. So very important. Currently marketing at farmers markets and things like that. People rarely will type in the full URL to your business. Most likely they're just going to turn to Google to try to find you. So if you can't appear in those search results, then that's missed visitors that you're losing out on. Google.com/mybusiness is where you can make sure to fill out the registration for this. This also determines how you display on Google Maps as well for people. So if you have a farm store, this is going to help you display in these search results as well. Once you have a Google business listing, people can leave reviews on that Google business listing. It appears somewhere here on the side on search results. And you want to try to acquire as many reviews as possible because Google uses this to validate your business as well. That helps build credibility with Google. I sell lawnmowers in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Someone else sells lawnmowers in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I have 100 5-star reviews and he has 100 1-star reviews. Google knows that the online visitor is going to probably have a better experience with my business since people are having a better experience with that. So they're more likely to display you in those search results. So these are powerful in helping build awareness and credibility on Google as well. Tip number 3 is to host your online presence on a single website. So this gets a little technical, but when it comes to building a website online, we recommend that you only use one platform to do this. So our website at sevensons.net, it's built on GraceCart. We sell our products on here. We run our online blog on here. And of course, the online store is on there as well. And what happens is since all of this content and information that we're posting on our website is on our domain, sevensons.net, and since we registered our Google business listing and Google knows that this is our website, they now have a lot of information about our company, and we're more likely to show up in search results that we have content for on our website. So for example, if someone searches for unique products that we have to offer, like grass-fed beef liver, Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're more likely to pop up for that search result because it's associated to our website domain versus if we were selling that product on another marketplace style website. I know there's a lot of more marketplace style websites that are out there, but basically the general rule of thumb that you want to follow here is to make sure that you're selling your products on your own website and your own domain, or else you're less likely to display in those type of search results. So we call these local product search results. So again,
yeah,
go ahead,
Brooks,
Blaine.
can I jump in? I mean, a lot of times we will have clients that come to us to use GraceCart, and maybe they've paid a designer to build a WordPress website, and they just want to use GraceCart as the shopping cart portion. And we strongly discourage that because of what you're talking about here. It is a big deal when you put a couple of years behind you and your online marketing efforts. The worst thing you can do is, and you see this, Brooks, and I think we were doing some of this at one time. We had our main homepage and a few about us pages hosted on one platform. And then you go to click the blog, and that's on a separate blogging platform. And then you click the store, and that's on some other shopping cart. That confuses the heck out of Google. You might as well be trying to build 3 different websites at the same time, and it just confuses Google. And so that's a big deal. And I just want to emphasize what you said about the, Google likes Google. So if you can get people interacting on your Google business listing, that really makes a bigger difference than you would realize. So, hey, and Brooks, you're probably watching the time. You got 30 minutes, just so you know.
Got it. We'll keep moving through this here. So keeping everything on one domain is important. So we'll move down to another awareness strategy that is big, especially when you're starting out online. And it's a strategy that we refer to as link building or backlinks. So you're probably familiar with the community bulletin board. Maybe you've put your business card on here before. They're always located in high traffic areas to try to get visibility. Well, online, there are similar systems to this. So that's what a backlink is. It's the whole concept of basically getting a link of your website out on the internet on someone else's website that points that traffic back to you. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get links to your website out there. One strategy you can pursue is trying to get links to your website on a local food directory. So Eat Wild is a local grass-fed food directory that's been around for ages. There's many others. Realmilk.com is another one if you're selling milk products. Agrilicious, there's Local Harvest. So I think, Blaine, you spent an entire year once, and you made it a goal that every week you were going to get a link out on someone else's website, which might sound like a lot of work, but after that year, those are 52 links out there that live online, pointing traffic back to our website. And that's another thing that helps build credibility with Google as well, because they see that you're getting traffic from these other websites that have existed for a long time. And it's kind of like a peer-to-peer referral system, and it builds credibility for your website.
Hey, yeah, and Brooks, I just wanted to emphasize here and to everybody that what you've heard Brooks talk about, these are high, talking about the, going back to the person that said, what do you do if I don't want to live on social media all day to try to promote my farm? Well, what Brooks has been talking about, these are all one and done strategies. You get your website set up correctly once, you get your Google business listing, submitted once, you do these backlinks and you're doing that once. So one common theme that you'll hear Brooks and I refer back to today is we are focusing at Seven Sons, we are focusing on online marketing platforms and strategies that are high leverage. That means we put in a lot of front loaded time, and after that, it's set it and forget it. It's automated, it's happening. That's why we focus a lot on YouTube. Those YouTube videos live out there. A Facebook comment dies. A YouTube video continues to get, and Eat Wild continues to get traffic. So high residual one and done efforts, that's the ticket.
That's where you want to focus your time, because even today, once you've been online for a long time, there's thousands of links out there pointing traffic back to our website. And that happens while we're obviously focusing somewhere else. So long-term residual impact. Backlinks are another one. Of course, there's Facebook and social media. These are probably areas that maybe a lot of you are focusing. We know that everyone is on social media in today's world. So I wanted to share a few best practice with these. And number one is really the best practice, but we wanted to put the right mindset and expectation out there that you can't necessarily build a business on social media. So I see a lot of people who spend 90% of their marketing efforts here. We probably spend about 5% of our marketing efforts here. And the reason for that is because people, when they're on social media, they're on there to be entertained. And it's in Facebook's and Instagram's best interest to make sure that they're showing content and posts on social media that are the most entertaining to the people who are on there, because the more time people spend on there, the more they can charge advertisers who want to get in front of those people. So it's a very competitive place. You're competing with people's family members, their friends, the best, most popular celebrities in the world, pictures of people's pets. And if you spend all of your effort on here trying to compete with that, then you're just going to burn yourself out and you're going to end up looking like this pet here. This is hard to compete with. This is pretty funny stuff. So that's the main thing is we are going to share some best practices with social media. And we do, I think, Blaine, in your presentation, you're going to share some ways that we get a lot of leverage out of social media with a very little time involved. But what we want you to focus on here is, yes, you have to be on social media if you're in business, but put some of these other strategies that we're going to talk about at the top, and make sure that you're not putting all of your end all be all focus here. When you do spend time on social media and you post and interact with your customers, we recommend that you try to post as engaging content as possible and minimize promotional posts about the products that you have to offer, asking for the purchase on social media, because again, people are on here to be entertained. So the posts that are going to get the most interaction are the ones that people are interested in, educational type posts that give your users value. In fact, I did a report on our social media pages and found that out of all of our posts in the top 30, nothing had anything to do about our products and asking for any purchases. They were just informational posts that were interesting, in the moment photos of what were happening on the farm. So this is what you want to use social media for building a relationship and adding value to really more so of your existing customer base. One thing to try to help build awareness on social media would be, in the early days, would be to run giveaway contests. So these are something that, especially if I was starting off from scratch, I would make sure that I would be doing. So these are giveaway posts where you give away free product with a contest. So here's an example of something that we posted on our page where we basically let people know that we were giving away some free product, and all they had to do to enter the contest was to follow us on social media, comment and tag some of their friends. So that adds a lot of distribution, and that adds and spreads to their friends and so on. And I think the last one was to, say something interesting or what their favorite product was from Seven Sons. So that was it. And these can build a lot of awareness on your social media page and get you some new followers quickly because people will do a lot for free stuff. Something else social media has been worked well for us, Blaine, has been promoting live events. So if you do on-farm events like tours and maybe we do a farm festival once every year, social media is a good place to promote those because, again, people are there to be entertained. So those are going to be posts that will get more interaction and engagement from folks online. They're more interested to share those with their friends to see if this is something that they want to do to be entertained. So farm tours and those have worked well for us on social media. I mentioned the farm festival. This is something that we do once a year. It's an on-farm event that brings out about 1,000 people every year. A lot of these people are not customers because people, when our customers do come out, they bring their family and friends, so we make it a very family experience. And we get a lot of new faces at the farm every year at these farm events. So we try to make it as entertaining as possible. We bring out local food trucks. There's a straw maids. We have live music. So a lot of different vendors who help contribute to this event. And something that we do for these on-farm events is that we will ask those vendors who come, the food trucks, we ask them to share the event on their social media pages as well. So you're also distributing and gaining more awareness from their followings on social media and their email lists or wherever they have people who follow them. And this has been something that's been helpful for us. It's a lot of work to do, but by having vendors come, we offload as much work as possible, and it's one day a year, and we got a lot of new eyeballs. So if I was starting a farm completely from scratch, I would definitely find ways to have an on-farm event at least one a year. Building awareness, got to keep moving through these, but building awareness for farm events. If you do decide to do this, one thing I would recommend is posting the farm event on community websites. So these are websites like things to do, Roanoke, Indiana. You see a lot of these community websites who are very willing to share fun things to do in the local area. And again, I mentioned asking the vendors to share the event with their social media following. I'll probably just move through the referral program here to keep us going. So once you have employed in strategies to try to build awareness with your market, take these complete strangers, make them aware that your business exists, the next phase is going to be what we call the interest phase. So just because someone became aware of you, they're not going to, typically they're not going to buy right away. There's a lot of people who are aware of Seven Sons who have never purchased before. So the next thing that we want to do is try to help build a relationship with these people, tell more about our business and connect with them, inspire them and tell them more about what we do, why it matters and why it matters to them. And the best tool to use to tell your story online is going to be your, what we have found is our website. So there's a lot of different, obviously, strategies that you can employ that go into making a highly effective website, but the most important page for your website is going to be your homepage. So with the limited time that we have here, we wanted to share just 4 tips that your homepage must do. We've spent probably hundreds and hundreds of hours optimizing our website over the years, and we have found a few things that have a big impact in building a relationship with the customer. So number 1 is we want the homepage to pass what we call the 5-second test. So the 5-second test, what this means is when someone lands on your website, what we want to do is we want to answer 3 questions in just 5 seconds. Number 1, what is it that you offer? What's in it for me? And what do I need to do to buy it? So 3 questions in just 5 seconds. I think there's reports online that shows that if people they land on your website and they can't answer these type of questions very quickly, they're more likely to, people have a very short attention span when it comes to just today's advertising saturated world, and that's especially true online. So if you can't answer these type of questions very, very quickly, that person's more inspired to click the back button and look for another option because they don't have to search as hard as they used to, because the marketplace is becoming more and more competitive each year. So this even includes your loading speed. So you want to make sure that your website loads as fast as possible as well. So this is really just that hook on the website to capture that customer's attention or that visitor's attention, because if you can get them to spend more than 5 seconds on the website, your chances of getting them to spend 5 minutes or 20 minutes goes up very, very quickly. So the way we do this with our website, we want to try to do this and answer these questions right away. This is the section of the website that we call the header. So you can see at sevensons.net, we have a message that says grass-fed meat. That's what we offer. You can eat with confidence. That's what's in it for our customer. Safe and ethical food delivered to your door. That lets them know what are the next steps they need to take to buy it. So they know I can purchase products on this website. So 3 questions in just 5 seconds. I tell people that you want to pretend like your website, this top part of your website is like a billboard that is on the highway and your customers are going by at 80 miles per hour. What are the most important things that you want them to know about your business? So to show how important the 5 seconds test is, I just took another random website that was out there, and I actually ran an online test. This is not necessarily a poorly designed website. This is a common websites that we see quite often. But I put both websites to the 5-second test using this tool out there called Usability Hub. With this tool, what you can do is upload a picture. So I just uploaded the last 2 slides that you saw there to Usability Hub, and they will pull random people on the internet and ask them a random question, and you can set it up to just show that image to them for 5 seconds. So basically what I was doing is I was trying to actually run a live test of the 5-second test. So the results of this, these are just random people on the internet. I showed them our website at sevensons.net just for 5 seconds, asked them one question: what does this website offer? And these were the results that you saw from that image. So someone said it's a site, a farm that sells meat to consumers locally. That's a good idea of what we want people to see. Pasture-raised meat. So you see, you get the point. Now that second website I showed you asked the exact same question, and the results were very different. The top person got kind of close: farming and agriculture products, not very specific. One person said traveling, another person said horse rider, the bottom one said a salmon. I didn't see what they offer, but I saw a goat in their logo. So you can see what kind of impact that this has when someone is landing on your website for that first time. They're a complete stranger. And if they're in your market and these are the type of conclusions they're coming on to in just 5 seconds, then that's a potential lost visitor. You're not doing a very good job at helping build their interest.
Brooks, I just want to add real quick, that's an important SEO aspect as well, because as people are, it's called a bounce. So if someone gets to your website, it's not loading, they can't figure it out within a couple seconds, they're going to click the back button because they know most likely there's going to be better websites out there. And that's a bounce. Google looks at that bounce rate and they say, if you're getting a high bounce rate, then you don't deserve to be listed in Google very high. So these things behind the scenes really work together, and again, over a period of a couple of years of effort, make a huge difference. So Brooks, you got 18 minutes, just so you know. I'll quit interrupting. So
yep. All right, number 2, what we want to do on the website is describe the buying process. The way we do this at Seven Sons is with a 3 easy step framework. So we basically are trying to help let this visitor know that doing business with us is going to be very easy. So buying products online, it's not always that way, especially buying from local farms. And as Blaine mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, we know that convenience is a primary motivator for our customers. So we want to show them just what does that buying process looks like. Because everyone's attention spans are so minimal online, they're not hardly invested enough at this point to read a long paragraph or instructions about what your buying process looks like. So it actually took us quite a while. In our early days, when we were selling custom beef by the hanging weight, our customers had to pick up by the processor. That buying process probably looked like eight steps long and had to be described with a 2 or 3 paragraphs. Well, that visitor is not interested in you enough at this point to invest that much of their time to even learn more about this. So we try to keep this as minimal as possible. People don't really read websites anymore. They just scan them. But again, what we're doing here is we're just trying to build the customer's confidence or the visitor's confidence that this is going to be easy to do business with us if they like what they see and they would like to move forward. Number 3, what we want to do on the homepage is also overcome any objections. So we're trying to do this again with as brief information as possible. But what we're trying to do is, every customer who buys from you, they have a certain list of boxes that need checked before they're going to support your business. That looks different for everybody, but what you want to do is just get a best understanding as possible of who your ideal customer is and make sure that you're speaking to those most common objections that you hear from your customers. So for us, we know, that a lot of customers are, an objection they might have is 100% grass fed. They know it has to be 100% grass fed or else that's a deal breaker for them. Others, it might be, non-GMO or the ethical care of the animals. Whatever those deal breakers are, you want to think about those and try to address them on the homepage, again, with as brief information as possible. All right, so number 4, that we would try to include on our homepage is a component of social proof. So people, especially when they're buying products online, they want to make sure that they're not the first one who's supporting this business. People are creatures of habits. We're very tribal. So we like to follow others, and we like to know that people are having a good experience. So social proof can look very different for different websites. For us, we try to include those Google reviews that we're asking for earlier to help build our credibility on Google, and we include those on our homepage. And that way, again, what we're just trying to do here is continue to build that customer's confidence that if they do support our business, they take that risk to support our business, especially online, because they're not in a grocery store. They can't physically interact with the product. They don't get it right away. They have to take a step of faith. We want to try to build that confidence that they are going to have a good experience. The best way to do that is to have your customers tell them that instead of hearing that directly from your business. You probably know this. Anytime I buy on Amazon, I never buy anything without first scrolling down to read the reviews. So it's the exact same way with your customers on your website as well. So once we've taken the homepage here and we've tried to at least, again, with as little information as possible, we've tried to at least build some awareness or interest with these people, give them an idea that they have arrived at what they're looking for if they're in our market. And at this point, some people will move forward and purchase right away, but most of the time, not everybody will. I think on average, you look at statistics for websites. They say it takes 7 or 9 visits before someone will actually make that first purchase. So what we want to do is we want to continue to, again, increase the likelihood that these visitors are going to continue down the buying process. So the next phase for the customer is to make a decision to support our business. So how do we help them do that? A strategy that has been very effective for us has been email marketing. So email has been a great tool to build a relationship with your customers, again, just to help them come down further in this funnel. It's been very effective for us. This is just a 30-day report at Seven Sons that attributes our revenue to different sales channels and different ways customers are finding us. You can see in this report, it attributes 42% of our revenue to email. So for every purchase that was made of our website, that person came from an email that was sent somewhere, 42% of those people. You can see social media is down there at 1%. So that, again, is another reason why we're spending very little time on social media versus other channels. I actually did a quick, when putting this presentation together, I looked at some data inside of our online ordering system to try to see if we could attribute just exactly how much value do we put on each email address that we acquire. So what I did is I ran a report for the last 60 days for first-time customers who placed an order and figured out what was all of that revenue just from first-time purchases, and divided that by the number of email addresses that we require. And that value came out to about $38 per email. So that's how much revenue is being generated just off of first-time purchases with each email address that we acquire. And this is consistent too. We see if we change something in our marketing and we're not acquiring as many email addresses, revenue dips right along with it. So in order to start building a relationship with someone through email, through a newsletter, or however you're going to communicate them through email, you need to first acquire their email address. So a tool that we use to do this, and again, this is just another online strategy that we refer to as a lead magnet. Some of you may have heard of this before, but this is just the concept of giving something away in exchange for someone's email address. Okay, because this is very important because people in today's world are very protective of their email address. We live in a very advertising saturated world. So people are just not going to hand this over to you. Okay, so there are different types of what we call lead magnets out there, strategies that you can do to acquire email addresses. Number one is just a simple join letter opt-in form on your website. You've probably seen these just about everywhere. They're not very effective though. Probably few of you can remember the last time that you've actually opted in just a random newsletter opt-in form. I know I haven't done it in absolutely years. I need more of a reason to do that because again, I'm very protective of who I'm going to give that email address out to because I know I'm going to get emails from them. So the second type of lead magnet that's out there is what we refer to as a financial lead magnet. This is the idea of giving something of monetary value in exchange for an email address. So these are also very common. You see them on many, many e-commerce websites out there. And these are very effective at acquiring email addresses. We don't use any of these because we don't want to attract a discount shopper who is really motivated more on savings. And we don't want to train that habit to them to have to basically the only time they buy is when they're inspired to based off of a sale or savings. So the third type of lead magnet out there is what we refer to as a content lead magnet. And this is what we use at Seven Sons. So this is just the idea of giving away some information that you can share to your customers that they find valuable. So there's several examples of these. I'll go through a couple real quickly. This is Dave Ramsey's lead magnet on his website. Many of you are probably familiar with Dave Ramsey. He's the debt-free guy, but he has his 7-day jumpstart to financial freedom. And all you have to do to get this is to enter your email address, and he'll deliver basically a 7-lesson series to these customers. So what's so powerful about this too is not only is Dave acquiring someone's email address, but if this actually works for me and I actually get value from this, then Dave has also acquired my trust, and I'm more likely to listen to something else Dave has to say, or better yet, buy one of his products. So there's, again, many other examples of these. We have a few of them on our website at sevensons.net. This is what we call our perishable shipping gracecart.com. So this is on our Gracecart website. This is just a resource guide for all of the different resources, contacts, tools that you would need to start a perishable shipping program. So from boxes, dry ice, all those different things that you would need to make this happen. And basically you can download this in exchange for an email address. So this is a strategy that we're using to grow our list by actually giving something away that our customer would want. So I have a few other examples on here. Again, you can get very creative with these. This is one I found when doing research for this presentation, which is 69 lead magnet ideas in exchange for your email address. So literally it's lead magnet ideas as a lead magnet. So at Seven Sons, when we were trying to think of what could our lead magnet be, we were trying to think of, hey, what are some things that have been very effective for us over the years for acquiring new customers? And, farm tours were something that stood out because we know when we can get someone to the farm and they can firsthand experience and see what we're doing, what's different about it, why they should care. It's a transformation moment for so many of those people. And a lot of those people end up being very loyal customers for us. And we also know that people, when they come to our website, a lot of times it's because they're doing research to try to find a source of food products that they can buy that they have confidence in. So they're fed up with where they were buying their products, and they want to actually have a closer relationship with who's providing them their food. So again, that's a desire that they have that we're trying to speak to with a lead magnet. So what we did is we decided to take that farm tour and make it virtual. So we created what we call our virtual farm tour. Customers, visitors can opt into this on our website. And basically what that does, as soon as they join the virtual farm tour, they will get a series of emails that are automatically delivered to them. That number one, it starts off by telling them what's the number one factor that goes into producing nutrient-dense food and how that starts in the soil. We then take them behind the scenes of all of our different animal enterprises. So they go to see the cows on day one, they see the pig operation on day two, they meet the people who are actually behind those enterprises as well. So this is a very interactive and personal experience. And we also have a comment selection below each video. So we're trying our best to recreate that live experience as much as possible. So we tell people, if you have questions, leave them in the comments below, and we're responding to these every single week. So that is the content lead magnet. And what's so effective about those, again, like Blaine was saying earlier, is once we went to all that work to create the virtual farm tour, it's always living out there and people are always joining the tour. So right now, there are people who are going through, we're building a relationship with, they're learning the most important things we want them to know about our business. And Blaine and I are on this presentation right here. So that's work that's very, very high leverage. So recently, we did discover a fourth type of lead magnet that I call the super lead magnet, because we were able to name it because we just happened to stumble across this by changing some of the user experience setups of our website. And basically the way this works is once we started getting into perishable shipping and we're delivering our products all across the country, we needed the ability to charge different customers who live in different regions different prices, because our cost to service them varied significantly. So basically when someone lands on our website, they don't have an account with us, they're a brand new visitor, they can shop our store, but they're not going to see any price, because what we've done is we've built in the cost of shipping and the prices vary depending on where they're located. So they see that explanation. So in order to see pricing, they have to create an account. Because once they create an account, we'll ask for their zip code. That means we know exactly where they're located and we know what price to display to them. So zip code and email is the only thing we're asking for to create an account, just two very simple fields. And since we made this transition, it's been by far the most effective thing that we've ever done to acquire new email addresses. And it really was just a byproduct of trying to solve another problem of being able to make sure that we could have multiple different pricing tiers, but yet have that make sense for customers when they're on our website to make sure they see the pricing tier that applies to their area. So this is a feature that we've actually built into the Gracecart platform. And this is, it's been a very effective tool at acquiring emails. I don't know, Blaine, I think what we see are email opt-ins increased by, do you remember the percentage this increased by?
I think we were acquiring like 600 email addresses per week, and it went to 2,000 overnight, just overnight, just by saying, you know, here we go. Here's how the shopping process works for us to present the right information to you. Type in your zip code. So this was a function goal for us for a better user experience, and it turned into the best lead magnet we could have come across. Brooks, you got 4 minutes.
Got it. We'll keep moving here. I'll move through that slide. So basically what we're trying to do, again, by acquiring their email address, is to help them make that decision. And we're not asking for a sale at this point. We're just trying to build a relationship with them, tell them more about what we do, in order to help them, to inspire them to move forward and do business with us. So at that phase, a lot of people are going to be inspired to move forward and make that decision to support us. But there's one final thing that we've implemented to try to increase the likelihood of that as much as possible. So this is what we call the action phase. So it's one final strategy to try to help inspire them to act out on that decision. So this is what we call the Tripwire offer. Basically what this is it's a entry-level sample to your customer to help them move forward. Because one thing that we've found is, at Seven Sons, we have a lot of different products on our website. There's close to 400 or so. And that's a good thing. And if you're selling online, the more products you have to offer your customer base, probably the more they're going to buy from you. But that presents a problem for a brand new visitor, because it's really easy for them to have decision fatigue on this website with so many different options on where do I even get started? And that was a common question we were getting from our customers. What would you suggest that I start with? So in order to solve this objection that people were having, we created a entry-level offer that we call the Best of Farm box. So it's basically a sample offer of our most popular cuts. And after someone goes through that virtual farm tour, we're going to send them another email that basically just presents this as a suggestion for them to start with. Okay, so again, these are our most popular products. And this has been a very effective tool to what we're trying to do is we're just trying to help push this customer, over the edge and help them move forward. So a couple of tips that make a highly effective Tripwire offer would be to use highly desirable products. So again, these have got to be your most popular items. They need to be kitchen friendly, things that are, hard for your customers to mess up and have a poor eating experience with inside the kitchen. So this is where we're talking about things like bacon. Very few people are going to mess that up. A lot of your steaks are things that, again, people who don't spend very much time in the kitchen might have a more poor eating experience with. They're not as used to things like roasts like that. So again, we want to try to make sure these are going to provide a fun eating experience. We also want to make sure this is budget friendly. So the price of our Best of Farm box is just under what our average order size is. Because again, people who are making that first time purchase, they're just wanting to sample products. They're not wanting to they're probably not going to purchase as much as your, loyal customers are. So we're looking at something that's more budget friendly. And the last thing that we recommend including on here is an exclusive incentive. So this would be some sort of financial incentive that you provide to them that is exclusive to them. So what we do with our Best of Farm box is when we first made that available, is we would give people a free delivery coupon. So we charge a delivery fee. But if they buy the Best of Farm box, we'll also give them a free delivery coupon, which delivery fees online is going to be a common objection of your customers as well. So we're overcoming another objection. We're also giving them an exclusive incentive to move forward. So basically, if they don't use the coupon, but they know they're interested in possibly doing business at some point, it feels like they're, leaving value on the table. Very common lead magnet that a lot of you have probably seen out there is free bacon for life from ButcherBox. Again, this checks all of those boxes that we just said. And I'm sure this has been effective because by how often I see it in my Facebook ads, they've been doing it for years, it works. So this is what you're trying to replicate with these customers. And anytime that you're, trying to figure out what's the next strategy to implement to continue to grow your direct marketing business, success normally leaves clues. So no matter what you think about the business out there, looking at people who are having success, there are things that you can replicate to reproduce similar results. So that pretty much wraps us up on the things that we are implementing to try to acquire that first time purchase. So that might feel like a lot of work, And the last thing you want, though, after putting all this together and acquiring those customers, would be if that customer only bought once. So that's where the power of retention comes in, and that's what Blaine's going to follow up on, is what are the strategies that we're doing then after that first purchase is made to inspire those people to continue to come back again and again. So again, that might feel like a lot, but the really cool thing here is that you can work on this over time, and almost everything we talked about leverages your time. It's very, very high leverage because once you implement it, it's implemented once. You can continue to prove it over time if you just want to make it better, but then it lives out there. Even the virtual farm tour, we're using automated email software to deliver those emails to customers, and that's happening as soon as they sign up. So basically this whole funnel is on autopilot at this point. So this has a very high return for your time involved, and that's one of the reasons why we enjoy internet marketing. So
awesome. Thank you. We're going to head into a break, 10-minute break, and for the rest of our time together in the chat. Also, if questions are coming up for you during the presentation that you don't want to forget, want to make sure they get asked, and you just want to type them out into the chat, Connor and I will keep track of those to lift up during the Q&A session. And I did get a question about this, should have mentioned it earlier. We are recording everything that will be made available to you within a week after this event. All right, with that, we'll bounce it back over to Blaine.
Okay, so as you can see, we've put a lot of work and intention into the customer acquisition side of things. And so, as Brooks mentioned, it would be a bummer not to have customers come back. So as much intention as we put into the acquisition funnel, as Brooks mentioned, we put even far more focus on what we call the bottom part of the funnel. So what I want you to think about is, think of an hourglass. The top part of that hourglass is your sales funnel that Brooks just described. And the bottom part is what we call your business tree that you're growing. And we Noah Fleming, who has the book Evergreen, which is a great book on marketing, talks about the fact that most businesses are like most trees. They grow leaves in the spring, representing new customers, and they shed customers in the fall. And so what you want to build is an evergreen tree. So think about connecting your sales funnel to the top of an evergreen tree, a Christmas tree, and keep that business green, regenerating itself, and actually growing itself. So going out, you're getting more referrals. The more happy customers, loyal customers you get, the more they're going to refer. And all of a sudden, over time, the bottom part of your funnel, that evergreen tree, just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, marketing actually just starts happening. And it's a snowball effect. And at Seven Sons, we'd have to put a lot of effort on slowing it down. It's just growing itself, and the customers are doing that for us. But it's the same thing that you can do. And I want to pause here and say that, some of you listening, and I know we get this from the live events that we have, one of the biggest maybe things on your mind is, while this seems kind of complicated and complex to get these tools set up, but you can do it. I just want to give you confidence you can do it. I mean, we don't have any marketing degrees here at Seven Sons. We're just a farm family that discovered some of these tools. It does take some time and intention to set up. But I'll mention too, with the Gravescart community, some of our most successful marketers, food marketers and farms that are direct marketing are actually Amish farms, using Gravescart and using the online marketplace. And that's because as an Amish farm, they just have to go out and hire somebody that knows what the heck they're doing. And sometimes that's the best strategy of all. And they do it economically. So anyways, don't get overwhelmed. You can do this. I'm going to, hey, Brooks, how did you get these slides to move forward then?
it's the keypad, man. It's not your keyboard, keypad. So just click.
Okay, boom, dang.
Got it?
Yep, I got it, man. See, we don't have technology figured out here at Seven Sons, and we don't love social media either. So you can do it without loving either one of them. So the question I always ask is, how do you beat these guys? Crowd Cow has $25 million in funding. Blue Apron, almost 200 million. All these places offer grass-fed beef. 241 million from Thrive Market is literally their seed money, their startup money. And I guarantee you the majority of that seed money is going to acquiring new customers. So as Brooks mentioned, it's just becoming noisier. As Brooks mentioned about the fact that we need to be responsive, answer the questions in 5 seconds when a customer gets to our website, because there's a lot of other options out there that are doing a good job of making it convenient to buy from someone. So we always say, gone are the days that you can rely on these old inconvenient ways to market your products. People don't have to jump through those hoops anymore. So we talk about this on our podcast and a lot of the schools that we do. There's really only 3 ways to generate sales. There's thousands of strategies, but they all fall under these 3 things here. You can either increase customers, you can increase the amount they spend when they buy from you, and you can increase the number of times that they buy from you. That's it. Every strategy and marketing trick out there falls under these 3 ways to generate sales. And what I can tell you is it's always going to be far easier. I can't emphasize this enough. Far easier to get someone to get your first customer to buy another time from you than it ever will be to go find a new customer. So you really need to be loyalty, retention focused from the get-go. And this was a mistake we made. As a new business, when you get started, you can get stuck in, how do I go find new customers? And you get stuck in putting your efforts there and not pivoting to the point where once you have a few customers, you really need to start focusing on loyalty. And that's what this presentation is about. Just for an example, we do invest a little bit of advertising dollars into Facebook. And so just as an example, when we put a Facebook ad in front of a user, if it's a cold user or a cold Facebook person who hasn't ever heard of us, but we're just doing some cold advertising, the same thing that ButcherBox would be doing, the same thing that Thrive Market would be doing with all that seed money they have. You just go out and put ads in front of people. So we've tried that before. And the best results we've ever had is we spend $1 and we get $1 in sales. And sometimes not even that. So that's pretty salty. But when we put an ad in front of an existing customer who's bought from us in the past, we can spend $1 and most commonly we'll get $10 to $20 back. And sometimes we spend $1 and get $50 back. So my point is, this just illustrates retention marketing is where you need to spend your time, focus, and dollars. So this is what you want to build. On the left here, this is an example of what a startup business is going to look like, a crowd cow type business or a Thrive Market. 75–80% of all their orders in business will come from new customers and very few from repeat. What you want to build is what's on the right. And this is what we have at Seven Sons. Out of every 100 orders that comes in at Seven Sons, 80% of them, 80 orders would be from a repeat customer. And that's the type of business that will grow itself and keep you going. So this is an illustration of it's supposed to be the evergreen tree underneath the sales funnel. After I built this, I thought it looked more like a poop emoji than a evergreen tree, but it's an evergreen tree. Okay. So at the top, what we focus on at Seven Sons is really giving our customer the absolute best experience we can give them. And we break this down into what we call magical moments. And a magical moment is basically any touch point that we have with them. We want it to be noticeably above average from what they would expect elsewhere. So we don't have to go way above and beyond, but at least they notice that it's above average. And that's what we define as a magical moment for our customers. So we're always looking for touch points along the buying journey to provide a moment of magic. And we share this with our team. The whole team's on board. We're always looking for these times to do this, because the goal is, we don't care, yes, we want a satisfied customer, but satisfaction is just a rating. Loyalty is a feeling, and it's that moment of magic that inspires a feeling. I don't know who says it, but people will forget what you tell them. They'll forget things that they see, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And that's what I love. That's what we love about loyalty marketing and retention marketing. It takes a long time to build a customer base and go out and get new customers, but literally within a moment, in the right moment, a magical moment, you can create loyalty instantly. A good example of this that I was just thinking about earlier, when we started our on-farm store, it was a self-serve store. And what was crazy is people would find us online, they'd come out to the farm and they'd walk into this self-serve store that was on the honor system. And they felt so compelled, and just because we trust them. And our mindset was, you know what, you trust us to provide you with what you're feeding your children and what you're eating, we can trust you in our store. And just communicating that to them just instantly created a loyal customer. So loyalty and retention can happen fast, where customer acquisition is time consuming and dollar consuming. So what we focus on, and Brooks touched on this, but I want to take it even further, is a seamless first-time order experience. That first order experience will dramatically affect whether they even ever think about placing a second order. So similar to what Brooks was talking about, when they get to your homepage, they've got those questions on their mind. Well, once they stay on your website, there's usually what we identify as 4 other questions that quickly come to their mind. Is, what all products do you have? Do you have what I'm looking for? Is it available to me? If so, how easily can I get it? And how quickly, so not only how I get it, but how quickly can I have it in my kitchen? And what's my final cost going to be? Meaning with all fees, delivery, just tell me what it's going to cost me. And that is a tall order to answer those questions. And you need to answer those questions in seconds again, not minutes. And so what we commonly see, and what our struggle was, is when you're selling products so many different ways, and there's so many different, you might be at a farmer's market where people can order online and pick up at a farmer's market or a pickup location or at your farm, and then you go ahead and deliver to maybe a certain area, but you don't deliver nationwide. Trying to communicate all these nuances can get very difficult. And the mistake we see that most farms make is they have a very in-depth how it works page, or how to buy from us page, as Brooks was mentioning, just paragraphs of information. If you're here, do this. If you're looking for this product, it takes this deposit, for example. But if you look at all this, as Brooks mentioned, success leaves clues, look at Amazon, look at Walmart. When you get on their websites, you can immediately answer all 4 of these questions within seconds. And these guys are setting the standard for how shoppers expect to be able to buy online. They really are. And at Seven Sons, we said, we're not going to be left behind. We're going to compete with these guys on user experience, because we're talking about technology that is available to all of us. It's just being innovative about how we use the technology. So again, here's an example. I was surfing on a website looking for different farm websites, and this is just a very common. This is a page that's describing to somebody how they're gonna how they can buy from them. And it took me 10 minutes just to digest this page and understand what all the options were. So what we've done is we've boiled, and this goes back to this what Brooks was using as an example of a lead magnet. But what we're really trying to do with this page right here, it's the first page a customer is going to see once they start browsing on our website and they want to see the price. What we really focus on doing is just asking for that zip code. Once we have that zip code, we use the technology of our website to do all the heavy lifting, all the different decisions that need to be made, all the different variables of where this customer lives, how they can buy from us, how much it's going to cost, which products we can ship to them or not. All this logic, we handle it all behind the scenes. So once they have an account, they get to the store and immediately they get answers to all 4 questions. So if you go to our website and type in register for your account with just your zip code and email, you'll immediately see that you can get home delivery. You're going to see that we deliver to your home where you live. It's going to show you your approximate delivery date, so when you can expect it. And that is a big deal. When people are shopping online, knowing when they can get it is something they want to know, and they want to know their final cost. So that's how we do it at Seven Sons, is literally using our GraceCart software, asking for their zip code. A cascading effect happens behind the scenes for the customer, just to make it easy for them to understand how they can buy from us. And once they do finally click to go place that first order, because we built our own e-commerce system, we make the checkout process as minimalistic as possible. I can't believe when I get outside of Amazon or Walmart, if I'm shopping for something online and I'm just using a traditional e-commerce platform that some online vendor is using, I can't believe how complex, even large multi-million-dollar companies, how complex their registration and their checkout process is. So we keep it very, very minimal. And one way to know whether your process is convenient or not is to just ask your customers. And this is something that we are always going through our online reviews and seeing what are common phrases and words that we see. And we're looking for, negatives. We're looking for things that we can overcome, turn into a magical moment. But if you look at our reviews on our website and go to Google, you'll see that people, and we're not asking, when we ask someone to put a review, we're not planting any seeds in their mind, but you'll see a common thread that people are always talking about how easy it was to order from our website. And that's confirmation that we're making it easy for them. We're always wanting to do even a better job. Number two, a magical moment we focus on is making sure that we're providing relevant information delivered to their inbox immediately after the order is placed, which actually can be challenging if you're taking orders online. If your customers have the option to pick up at your farm, or they have the option to get it delivered to them, the email that comes to them next really needs to speak to them very differently as far as what to expect next, when it's going to arrive, or if they're picking up at your farm, you need to provide detailed instructions of how to get to your farm, what the address is, what the pickup hours are. That experience needs to be tailored for them. So that's another reason we built GrazeCart, was so that we could tailor the buying experience no matter how they were going to pick up from us. So these are just a couple examples of different email templates that we would send to somebody. And by the way, you may not know this or not, and I didn't know until we did the research, but the number one opened email type is a transaction email. So, your newsletters typically have maybe a 20 to 30% open rate. I'm trying to think of other types of emails that you can send. But anyways, transactional emails typically have an 80% open rate. So people are very interested in what you're going to have in this email. And if you're delivering them a bunch of, if you chose home delivery, here's what to expect. If you chose farm pickup, you want this to be a very tailored experience. Again, they're brand new to your business. You want this to feel very, very easy. Confusion is the enemy. When it comes to marketing, confusion is the enemy. And you have to root out as much confusion as you can. So for example, on our website, there's 25 different email templates that are tailored to where a customer is in the buying experience. Send them the order confirmation email based on how they chose to buy. We'll send them maybe a deadline reminder email based on how they buy from us, a shipping notification email, again, exclusive to how they buy from us, because this is the enemy. As local regional farms, we typically have more than one purchasing method for our customers. And you need to make sure you're making it clear to your customers which ones they chose and what they can expect next. So number three, another magical moment we've really, really put a lot of effort into is delivery day. As busy farmers and direct marketers, once we have that first order, that's when we kind of, all right, let's fill this first order, get it out the door, and go grab the next order and go find the next new customer. No. We can't forget about the entire journey from when the customer the box arrives at their home to the experiences that happen days after that. So something we really focus on is branding the box, the unpackaging experience. On our website, we have pictures. We ask customers to send us pictures. I think, Brooks, we had an Instagram contest where we said send us your delivery day pictures, but we use those photos, one, as social proof. But secondly, when people are looking at our website and they're considering whether to buy, and we want them to imagine these boxes being in their house. And so they get that confident feeling about purchasing from us. And then delivery day comes and those images of these pictures come back to their mind, and it just reminds them, I have been successful. I've arrived at where I wanted to be. And these images are powerful, and the branding on your box is powerful. So you'll see these branded box pictures on our How It Works page for home delivery. We do focus on environmentally friendly packaging. We think that's a big deal, especially on delivery day. They may not know what type of packaging you use to ship out your orders, but when it arrives, that's one of the first interactions they have with you is with your packaging. So we think this is pretty important. Because if something would discourage repeat orders, it's a customer that has 3 styrofoam boxes sitting in their garage, and the last thing I want to do is add to that pile. And so we think this is a big deal when it comes to, one, creating a magical moment, but two, not being an inhibition for customers to buy again. We go to a lot of effort. We have a little welcome package that goes on the top of the box if you're a new customer. So we have a system set up in Gray's Cart so that when folks are on the packing floor, our warehouse team, there's a little star next to their name, and that means that they're a brand new customer. They get the welcome kit. So there's this nice, colorful, full page insert that just reminds them, success. You've been successful. This is a successful purchase. Farm Fresh goodness has arrived. Some instructions on how to unpack their order, if there's any problems, what they can do about it. And then there's this, what we call a surprise gift, which is just a little pot holder that says "Eat with Confidence" on it. And then inside the pot holder, we have a custom little card that we sign. Each of the brothers, we take time and sign a couple hundred of these each week. And we're just thanking them for trusting us to provide them with their food. And we really believe this creates a magic. Again, we're just trying to go above average for our customer and make that first time experience truly a magical. And it makes a difference when it comes to retention. We even go so far as make sure the packing team down on the warehouse floor that they're just not throwing the products in the box, that they're neat, putting everything in neat and nice. All the ladies in the warehouse get this just fine. The guys just constantly want to just toss the products in the box. Got to work on them. Yeah, Jack's shaking his head. Yeah. And then the last thing we do, or no, this is not the last. This is the fourth magical moment. I think it's about 2 weeks after they receive their first order, they get a "How was it?" phone call, and it's a really brief phone call. It's not a survey. We were respecting our customers' time, but we're just asking a couple of questions. Did everything arrive okay? Anything we can do to serve you better? And then we invite them, if you're ever in the area, please stop by and visit us. Just reconfirming we're a farm. You can come here and see what we're doing. So we avoid any long-winded questions. Again, this is not a survey. It's literally a touch base moment. And people really appreciate this. And a lot of times they have a question about how to place their next order, or a question about one of the products that they bought and maybe how to cook it. So we just get it's just a moment to have an interaction with the customer. And a lot of people are amazed that they actually get a phone call from us. We use a little tool called Phone Burner because we have to do a couple hundred of these each week. So this tool is actually meant for telemarketers. We just use it. We just import our list of new customers each week. And so our support staff in the office has this little dashboard, and it goes through, it automatically dials everybody. When people don't pick up, it just leaves a custom voicemail for them that's already recorded. If they do pick up, that's when our support people in the office answer the call and give a live phone call there. So this has been a real time-saving tool because it does take time to call your customers. And a lot of people in businesses would say this is unscalable. This is not a scalable thing to do. But we actually want to try to tackle some of the things that are unscalable to do, because that's what makes it so much harder for the competition to compete with us. We want people like ButcherBox and CrowdCow to feel like it's almost unfair to have to compete with the experience that Seven Sons provides their customers. And then we want a very seamless reorder experience. And this is where the majority of online e-commerce businesses, whether you're a farm or just a regular e-commerce business, this is where few businesses deliver well on this reorder experience. And it's mainly because businesses are so focused on getting that first time order that they implement cheats, what we call cheats at Seven Sons. These things are like guest checkout. Guest checkout is one of the biggest enemies of a seamless repeat order experience. They have things like, register an account using Facebook or your Google account. All those things seem like they're good ideas to get a customer that's the first time on your website to quickly place an order and get their account registered with you. But actually it's a big problem when that customer goes to place a repeat order. And this is something I buy online from this place called Regal Flame. It's a fireplace fuel for my one of the fireplaces I have in my house. And this is a fun thing that we do, but I got tired of ordering on Amazon because I knew there was probably cheaper places to get it. So I went to this website that sold it directly, and I placed my first order, and I ran out, and it was time for me to reorder again. And when I went to check out, I proceeded to check out, and the first thing I'm presented with is, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to log in with your account? Do you want to sign in with Facebook? Or do you want to take advantage of this you don't have to have an account to check out? For the life of me, I could not remember how I went through the buying process the last time. And this is one of the biggest mistakes we see e-commerce companies make. If again, success leaves clues. Go to walmart.com, go to amazon.com. You will not see a guest checkout option. You will not see a sign in with Facebook option. And this is why, right here, because it confuses the heck out of people when they come back to reorder. And I got so frustrated when I was trying to order this fireplace fuel. At first I thought, well, I most likely created an account. So I went over here and put in my email address and my best password guess. Again, this is the dreaded part of buying online. Remembering that password. Did I create an account or not? So sure enough, I put in my email and what I thought my password was, and it said your email doesn't exist. And so I went back. Here's the message I got. It said, click here to continue. So I click here to continue, and I'm back at where I was. So I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and create a new account. And there was something about this e-commerce website. It didn't like the browser I was using, and it kept telling me I needed to put in a verification. It's probably some kind of a security function that they were using that wasn't working with my browser. Guys, I gave up and ordered on Amazon. But this is a large e-commerce company. And again, we see this all the time with websites that farms are using, whether it's, and again, it's not even just farms, e-commerce businesses in general, because they're so focused on getting that first order and skipping some of the necessary processes. And that's just one reason we ask for a zip code and email from moment one. We just take care of that for the rest of the lifetime of that customer, and it's seamless for that. Now, after, so here's an example of on our website. If you're on our website and you've added an item to your shopping cart, compared to what I just described to you, here's what happens for a customer at Seven Sons. They literally just go up to the top right-hand side, and you see that little button called checkout. One click, and they're right here. And if you look at this, this very much so resembles Amazon's buying process. That's because it does. We literally just looked at how they did it and built our website and Grace Card accordingly. Click number 2, the order is placed. So on that previous example, I went through 10 or 15 clicks and never got an order placed. On this example, 2 clicks and the order is placed. That's why we see people on our on Google reviews talking about how easy it is. Those are the magical moments that we're focused on. Now, next, we are concerned, and Brooks, can you give me an update, or someone on my time? How am I doing? Just want to make sure I'm pacing this.
I think you're about 30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay, into it.
Yep.
Okay, so after that first time ordering experience, they've had these magical moments. We've really been intentional. After that, we don't necessarily just want to ask them to buy right away again. What we want to do there is start investing in them. And building that relationship further. So we think about these as intentional touches. The 6 intentional touches we have, number 1 is the Sunday email newsletter. And this is our number 1 source of sales. Out of all the things that we do, this Sunday newsletter brings in the most sales, and we send it out every single week. And generally it's not always product focused. This was an email we sent out that just, introducing people to our bison program, and my grandfather that owns a bison and runs that section of, or that part of the business for us. So as you can see, I think this is an 8-week graph. I'm not sure how many Sundays are there, but those peaks that's data from Google Analytics. And those peaks are just sales. So you can see that our Sunday newsletter is in a way like the heartbeat of our sales business. It brings in, it brings in the bacon every single week. And we send it on Sunday because Sunday, if you've done your research, is the busiest grocery shopping day of the week. So people have groceries on the mind on Sunday. So we want to put that in front of them when they're maybe at the grocery store and have the option of buying something there, but they get the email from Seven Sons, like, well, I'll just place an order with them. Plus, it's the final deadline of the week. So Sunday night is typically our deadline, and we start packing orders on Monday and shipping those out the door. So we want to interact with them on Sunday so that they can place an order and maybe have it to their door by Tuesday. So just for an example, like this baby bison newsletter that we just sent out a couple of weeks ago, that email alone, again, wasn't even product focused, brought in $46,000 with just 1 single email. The second thing we do to interact with touch points with our customer is what we call our automated new buyer workflow. So if you're a customer or you're someone that just signed up for a virtual farm tour, maybe you've never bought from us, you're always going to get the Sunday email newsletter. What we reserve are what we call our automated new buyer workflow. This is for people that have made their first purchase. And so we have a very intentional email campaign that goes to them. And it's a 9-month email campaign. So for 9 months, they're going to get emails from us that are already written. And how this works is we've been sending a Sunday newsletter for the last probably the last 15 years. We have religiously sent a Sunday newsletter to our customers. And it started off with 100 people on the email list, and it got to 1,000 and then beyond. But we always took time to write a intentional, maybe a thought-provoking, or just a, sharing just kind of about things going on the farm, something authentic. And we've been writing those for a long time. And what we found is that there were some Sunday email newsletters that really got a good response. People really enjoyed them. So we took the best of the best and we automated it so that brand new people that are new to us, that have never, they obviously haven't been around for the last 15 years. They've never had a chance to experience some of those great emails that we wrote in the past. This is where they get them. So they get the best of the best for 9 months. So what that means is if Brooks or I never touched email marketing, we never touched social media, new people, new customers for the first 9 months would always get a weekly email from us. And it's our best emails that we've developed over the years. So this is completely automated. And it's just things like this. We shot a video a couple of months ago about how our cars sequester more carbon than they emit. And we gave reasons for that. Brooks and his wife, Catherine, did a meal prepping article. I wrote an article a couple months ago on the top misleading beef claims. So, this is what we really like about email content and blogging is that these content assets live out there compared to Instagram and Facebook. That content dies. This stuff continues to live out on your website. And then we use automated email marketing to revive it and send it back to customers that are brand new to us, if that makes sense. So we call that evergreen content. And our evergreen content goes out on Wednesdays. And you can see that second bump that happens in between each Sunday. That's the evergreen email that goes out on Wednesdays. And guys, I mean, this isn't real hard to set up. There's a lot of farms, again, Amish farms that are doing this. We have a lot of success stories of farms that are putting these tools in place. And again, it's one and done stuff. We also have a campaign for an automated deadline reminder. And so this is basically, this gets maybe a little bit more, I guess, complex. But we basically have our email software integrated with GraceCart. And with the email software we use, it's called Drip. You've probably heard of platforms like MailChimp or Constant Contact. We use a software called Drip. And basically it communicates with GraceCart. So it knows when is the last time a customer purchased from us, what did they buy, how much did they spend, and how long has it been since they ordered from us. And based on that information, Drip, the email software, reaches out to those customers and says, hey, this week is our deadline for delivery to, Joliet, Illinois. We're delivering to this area next week. And it looks at the last time they ordered. So it knows that, if this customer purchased $500 worth of product 2 months ago, the email platform knows, don't bother that customer. Now, if that person purchased $95 worth of product 2 months ago, we know they're a prime candidate. Their freezer or their fridge is most likely empty by now. They should get a deadline reminder email. So our deadline reminder email is actually one of the top performing emails that we send out. I don't have time to go over that, but just for an example, I took the data from the last 2 weeks. And Brooks, I've got these, I don't know how to get this video out of my way, but I can't even see what the data is there. But Brooks, do you see that on the right-hand side? What's the result?
Are you looking for revenue on that?
Revenue, yeah.
Yeah, so 24,000 is what was generated there on that report.
Yeah, so that's from September through October. And again, these are just automated emails going out. I guess what I want to emphasize here is that they're intentional and helpful. Okay, so you never want to send an email out unless you have a good reason and a way to add value to your customer's life. If you can't say this adds value to my customer's life, don't hit the send button. We do not use terms at Seven Sons like email blast. You don't want to blast your customers with anything. They're people. This is a personal, their inbox is personal to them. You want to make sure every time email goes out, you're sending timely information that's relevant to where they are in their journey with you. And to do this, one way to do this, and this is how we originally started doing it, there's just a setting in GrazeCart. So if a customer's picking up at a pickup location, you can literally just have GrazeCart send those deadline reminders for you with a click of a button. This is one of my favorite things, this next touch point, and this is automated social retargeting. And again, as we go down these, they get a little bit more complex, but this is how Brooks and I get away without spending any time on social media, yet we're using social media to our advantage. So just like we do with all the previous Sunday newsletter emails that we send out, we repurpose those, the best content, to new customers that have never seen them before. We do the exact same thing with our best social media post, is we actually pay Facebook, and this is where Facebook is integrated with GrazeCart. So Facebook knows who our customer is, who's brand new, where they are in the buying process with us. And literally for 6 months, Facebook presents information in front of our newest customers. And again, hardly any of this is go back and place another order with us. It's just giving them helpful information, valuable content that we've posted in the past that social media, Facebook users have rated high, give it a lot of likes, and we just repurpose those posts. And a lot of folks don't know you can do this, but it's, and even though we're not asking people to buy, we're really just helping to build trust with this information. This is actually a very, very effective use of our advertising spend. So for example, from January 2020 to October 2020, so 10 months is when I did this study, we spent, at Seven Sons, we spent $15,000 on putting these posts in front of people. And a lot of advertising companies would never spend $15,000 to put a post in front of people. It's simply just helping them understand your business, not asking them to buy. But in that time period of 10 months, the return on ad spend was $12. So for every dollar that we spent, $12 came back for total revenue. So we invested $15,000 in the last 10 months on these ads, and they brought back $182,000 in revenue. And again, this is automated. Okay, we set that up once, and it's just happening in the background with the technology talking to each other. Number 5 is what we call our 5-Star Friday email. And this, similar to the follow-up phone call that I talked about earlier, this is a email follow-up. I think this goes out 3 or 4 weeks after they've received their first order. So by that time, we feel like they've had enough time to try most of the products. And at that point, we're asking them, hey, we want your feedback. And we say, we're not going to ask you to give us a survey. What we'd rather you do is just post a Google review out there for us. And that takes a lot of vulnerability, because we don't have any control over our Google reviews. People can post a negative review and we can't do anything about it. But I think that's what makes this email so powerful, is that we're willing to be vulnerable. And so we call it 5-Star Friday, because every Friday the email goes out, and every Friday 5-star reviews come in. And literally we started sending out this timely feedback email, asking them to give us a review, customers to give us a review. I think it was about 3 years ago, we had a total of 36 Google reviews. Started sending this email out every week to people that have purchased, and a couple of years later, there's over 1,000 reviews, and that's powerful, very powerful social proof, not to mention the credibility it's built with us for our Google business listing as people are doing searches online. The last thing we do in this entire automated touchpoint process is our automated email software Drip. If it sees that a customer hasn't purchased within the last 9 months, so they bought once, but they never bought again in 9 months, we send them a very direct email. It's called the one question email. And you'll have a copy of this on the slides if Alex sends this out to everyone. Literally, you can use this if you want, but we literally are we genuinely want to know what's keeping you from coming back in purchasing. At one time, we were interested in our products, and we just say, hey, we're willing to take any feedback you have for us. And this email, when we started sending this email out, we still do to this day, we get such valuable feedback because everyone's wondering, how do I get my customers to buy from me again? And why aren't they buying from me? Well, I tell you who knows the answer. It's every customer who's not buying from you. And a lot of people, if you're willing to reach out and just don't ask them for a survey, just ask them to hit reply. And yes, it's more work for us to have to get those email replies to our inbox, but it's well worth it. The information that comes from this email right here is usually golden. We make major changes to our business based on the feedback that comes in this email. So the last thing that not the last, this is second to the last, I believe, in this evergreen strategy is what we call our launch engine. And this is where, up until this point, we have that first order. We're focused on creating these magical moments. We're focused on creating these intentional touch points that are really investing in the relationship. But 3 or 4 times per year, we do what we call a promotional launch. And this is kind of the rekindling of the relationship. If someone hasn't bought from us in a while, this will most likely motivate them and give them a really good reason to come back. And so it's the same, and we actually, we learned this is an email marketing strategy that if you follow along what I'm saying here, and if you do any email marketing, this will change your email marketing, make it far more effective. It's the same thing that Apple uses or Tesla uses when they come out with new products. They launch them over a period of time. Generally, it starts with building up a lot of anticipation. I mean, I'm an Apple geek, and I remember watching the first keynote where Steve Jobs unveiled the first iPhone, and the amount of excitement and anticipation I had for that iPhone to be available to buy was enormous. And this is what the Apple store in New York City looked like when that first iPhone came out. Wouldn't you love to have people lined up at your farm to buy grass-fed beef like that? Well, we can use some of the same strategies that they're using. It's really quite simple. So what we do at Seven Sons is we build a promotional calendar every year, and it's based on our seasonal production. So if we're going to be harvesting a lot of beef in the fall, you better believe we're going to put together a promotional and actually a evergreen pricing strategy so that we can offer our customers the very best value and we have the most inventory in stock. So we literally build our launch calendar according to our harvest schedule for the farm. And then we make sure we build a pricing model so that we can afford to give our customer a better value when our investment is the lowest and when we have the most amount of product available to them. And I really emphasize that it's what we're doing. We do lower our price during what we call a promotional launch. But really what we're doing is we're not discounting our price across the board. We already know where our minimum price needs to be. And in the off season, when we're not running our promotion, our price is higher. And then when we do run the promotion, it's just where it needs to be, if that makes sense. So it's a long-term pricing strategy. And so how this works is, and we've done this with our seafood line. The first year we did this, I'm trying to remember, I think we do it for, wild fish seafood. We do it for our autumn hog harvest, our winter beef harvest. And this is the email sequence. It's so simple. First thing we do is we send an anticipation email. So think about the keynote presentation that Steve Jobs used to do to build anticipation about a product. We do the same thing through email. We send an anticipation email that, hey, the annual hog harvest is coming up. We then send a second email a week later, typically, and we say, hey, do you want to be the first to know when the hog harvest sale goes live? And we get a bunch of people that click yes, tell me when it goes live. And what we're doing is we're kind of just building a micro commitment at that point for that customer. And so once we have people on this, what we call a launch list, we then open the cart. It's basically the beginning of the sale. And everyone that signed up to be notified about the beginning of the sale will get an email, and it just basically says, hey, hog harvest is live. Today you get the first chance to buy. And generally our sales will run maybe a week, sometimes a month at the longest. Typically in between the beginning of when the cart opens to when the cart will close, we'll send some value-added emails, so maybe some unboxing videos from customers, answer some FAQs. And this is actually a good time to send out reviews on that product that this would be a good time for us to put pork reviews inside of those emails and testimonies. And the last thing that happens is the launch ends and we send a cart closeout email. Hey, today's your last day to order. And it seems too simple. It seems too easy. And you might think of this, I don't fall for those gimmicks. Yes, you actually do. You don't realize it, but this is how most companies launch products now. And you'll think about Apple and Tesla and those companies all differently now. Once you think about this model, it's how they do it. Typically, their launch happens maybe over a period of, if you're Tesla, it happens over the period of 2 years. They build up so much anticipation. They get so much free press, but it's the same model that's happening right here. So just for an example, when we started to sell, let's see here, when we first used this model in 2017, our weekly seafood sales was, I think, around $700. We sent these 5 launch emails out in the period of 1 week. Within 1 week, we had sold $38,000 instead of $700. And we never, we were quite skeptical of a 5-step email sequence like this. Can it really work? We gave it a try, and that was crazy. Now, a lot of people look at this slide and they'll ask, well, what happened to your seafood sales the rest of the year? Well, we got another 38,000 the rest of the year. So literally by the end of the year, we had double our seafood sales. Sure, half of it came in 1 week, but who cares? Same thing with our winter beef sale. Typically, when we did it the first time, we were averaging about $13,000 in sales every week of our beef. We did this launch campaign, and I think this was a 1 week sale, but we had brought in 128,000 in sales compared to the 13,000. And again, yes, after the sale ended, we saw a dip in sales, but overall through the year, generally as we do these launches, it would double sales throughout the year. So I keep going with different examples, but you can use this launch strategy to launch anything. We use it to promote our annual Farm Fest Day. There's usually a good incentive for someone to sign up to be notified and get reminders about the Farm Fest. We use this same launch strategy over the period of 12 months to launch all of our pickup locations in Chicago. We literally just built an anticipation list, gave them a reason to sign up and be notified when we were making our first delivery to that area. And we started doing it 12 months before we made our first delivery. By the time we made our first delivery, we had 1,000 people on an email list, and the truck was full on the first delivery, and it was full every time after. We would go to Chicago, I think, every 6 weeks to make deliveries. So that's the launch engine, and just think of it as a way to rekindle the relationship. It makes people actually love it. They find it fun. You may think, man, I don't want to promote to my customers like that. We actually get a lot of emails that say, hey, when's your next launch? When are you going to launch another product? And then last in this process is you just have to have ongoing, Amazon calls it customer obsession. You just have to have we just call it at Seven Sons world-class customer care. And it's just taking care of your customers. So, from time to time, something will go wrong with an order. At Seven Sons, we always make it right. Unless it's something the customer really messed something up on. But most of the time, we just always make it right. So if you're into benchmarks, we figured that about 1.3% of all of our revenue needs to be reserved for refunds and credits and just taking care of something maybe that didn't go quite right for a customer. And we're really proud of our warehouse team. Every order that goes out with a 99% order accuracy, and we have a good tracking system in place for that. But we still shell out over $100,000 per year in credits or refunds just because something didn't go quite right. So our success rate of a successful order is very high, but the moment something doesn't go right, we make sure we take care of it. And that $100,000 we spend every year on refunds and credits is some of the best money that we invest every year in our marketing. So the goal is to always take, and anytime something goes wrong with a customer at Seven Sons, in our team, we call that a moment of misery. And what the goal is to always replace a moment of misery with a moment of magic. So even though something goes wrong, if you take the right actions, that customer will just become all that more loyal because they now trust you that you're always going to take care of them. Something else you need to think about is, see where my time is here, is what we call omni-channel support. And basically what that means is if you've been in direct marketing for long, especially online, you're going to get overwhelmed really, really quickly with people sending you a message through Instagram or through Facebook. Maybe they text you, they send you an email, they give you a phone call, all the different comments that are happening on social media. How do you keep up with all of that? How do you not get How do you not lose a message that came in from a different platform? And so what we do, we have a tool that we put in place called Zendesk. And we don't get anything from this, but it's an awesome, awesome tool. Many of you have probably heard of it. I'm sure many of you have experienced support emails from a company you do business with that uses Zendesk. But basically, it integrates with all the social media platforms. It integrates with our phone support system, our email support system. So every single, I think every month we get over 1,000 interactions with our customers, whether it's an email or a phone call or a text message. We get 1,000 interactions coming in every month. And this just brings all those interactions to one little help desk where our customer service team can just manage all of that. And what's really cool about it is you can, if you've been marketing online and answering emails long enough, you realize that a lot of the same questions continue to come in. And so in Zendesk, we create what we call macros, basically email template replies. And we have a complete database of all these predetermined replies. And so our customer service team is able to be very efficient. Even if it's someone new who's working for us, when a question comes up, a lot of time there's a macro that at least gives them some insight into a good answer for the question. And we also maintain those macros because they're really, really handy for training new people. You basically you can create a customer service manual with a tool like this. And plus it keeps all your communications in one place. So if you do need to hire someone to help you out here, they can go back and they can look at, the last 3 months worth of interactions you've had with your customer, and just looking at those 3 months worth of threads and interactions, before long, they become trained very quickly just by being able to look at that log in a very organized place. Again, I mentioned this earlier. We're always looking at our buying process, and we're always looking at what is a moment of an anxiety that our customer might have in the buying journey. And we're always looking to purge those moments, just take it out of the system completely. And this is actually something that Google focuses on with all their products they produce, is just where is a possible moment of anxiety. And so one of the best things that we ever did, and that we recommend to everyone who's direct marketing, is be disciplined and require yourself and all of your family members to purchase from your farm the same way your customers have to purchase from your farm. When we got started, we would just walk out to the chest freezer and grab a couple pounds of ground beef and bring it into the house. Try to resist doing that. Instead, make yourself order the same way your customer has to, because if you have to do that, a lot of times you'll change how you do business because you won't even put up with the way you do business. And that can make a big difference. So when we implemented that policy at our farm and for our family, we changed a bunch of things about how our ordering process worked. We knew it needed to be more convenient. Lastly, and I already covered that, ask your customers why they stopped purchasing. That's one of the most valuable questions. If you're trying to build a repeat customer business, get a hold of the people that haven't purchased from you and just ask them what the objections are. And just be honest, let them know you're trying to improve your business. And people will most of the time give you great, honest feedback. And this is more for, I know someone was talking earlier, a question of how do I build kind of that team and leverage my time. But as you think about building a team, you really need to focus on being as people-centric as possible, because if you hire people and the people you hire, if they don't feel like you care about them, they're not going to care about your customer. And so we've really focused on making Seven Sons just we filter hard for who we hire. But the people we do hire, we want them to have really a magical experience working for our company. And there's always rough days, there's always problems you have to work through. But for the most part, though, if someone's working for us, they know that we care about them, and just in exchange, that care just flows through to the people we hire that now take care of our customers. So that's your evergreen tree. And really, these are just fundamentals. I mean, there's really no magic bullets here. This is just fundamentals of how you want to be treated if you're buying from somebody. It's not rocket science. What the cool part of this is putting as much of it as you can on automation, and you can. Majority of what I step through, you can put on automation, and the rest, as your business grows, using the tools that we have in place, you can delegate it very, very easily so that you're freeing up your time to spend more time on the farm. But this is how, I know someone was asking earlier, how do you manage all the things that have to be done, all the different priorities, and how do you spread your time across all the different activities between production and marketing? The biggest thing you can do is make sure your marketing efforts early on are focused on high residual activities. So you're putting things in place once that just continue to work over and over, as I mentioned earlier. So if you're not sure, I know we covered a lot today, but here are the top action items we always give people if they're trying to get started with online marketing. Get your website set up, start generating traffic and awareness, as Brooks mentioned. Start collecting email addresses as quick as you can, and don't let the fact that you may not have time to start an email sending campaign every week. Just start collecting email addresses. I think we collected email addresses for an entire year before we sent our first newsletter. Start building your social media pages, and if possible, get started building that online following as much as 1 to 2 years before you ever have product to sell. We're talking about building virtual followings here. You can bring customers along with you on your journey of setting up your farm if you're just getting started. And by the time you have products, you now have an email list. Wouldn't that be nice? Just a couple of quick plugs here. Brooks and I do have a weekly podcast that we produce, and that is at gravescast.com. You're welcome to, and we literally just go through and go deeper on a lot of the things that we talked about here on this workshop here. We also have our blog. You can check that out at gravescart.com. Our Gravescart clients do get our courses that go a lot deeper into what the strategies that we're talking about. And I know someone mentioned earlier about how do I get a website set up and get a shipping program set up. Brooks has a 6-week course called the Perishable Shipping Launchpad that literally walks you through a 6-week process that if you want to get started shipping, you can within 6 weeks. We got a lot of people that have gone through that. And then we have a Facebook group called the Gravescart Campfire, where you just come and ask your questions and share ideas and stories of what's going on in your marketing business. So I'm over on my time a little bit. That's it.
You're good from our end, actually.
Cool.
Coming up on 3:40.
Oh, it's not 3:30. Okay, I was rushing myself. Okay.
Go over, Connor.
All right. Well, let's just take a minute, and if everybody can click the reactions tab or give a thumbs up or something to thank you guys for that awesome presentation. So. Cool. Yeah, definitely. Looking at the chat box, it was a lot of great information. We're gonna hop right into a question and answer session, and how that's gonna work is, if you don't, we encourage you to ask your question out loud, and in order to kind of get in line to do that, you can type the word stack in the chat box. If you don't have a microphone or don't want to ask it out loud, you can also just type your question directly in the chat box as well, and that works, and I'll lift it up. So, well, we'll start right off. It looks like Dana, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, thanks. Great presentation. You've given me a million ideas. I'll probably only do like 5% of that, but that'll probably even pay off. What are some of the current moments of anxiety that you're working on purging for your customers?
Brooks, I don't know what comes to your mind, but I know that throughout this year, FedEx and UPS have been so busy. They have had more delays, and anytime a customer is expecting a delivery on a certain day and they don't get it on that day, that's definitely a moment of anxiety. So that was one of the latest ones we had to work through. And we just set up Brooks, you could probably comment on this better, the tool called AfterShip, so that we get a notification before our customer knows that their order is going to be late, so that we can reach out to them first and let them know, hey, your order is a day behind, but don't worry, we put enough dry ice in the order, it'll be just fine.
Yeah, a lot of things there was just managing expectations. So, another thing that we did on our website is we stopped guaranteeing certain delivery dates, and we started telling people, hey, this is an approximated delivery date. And a lot of times, people are going to be okay with that. when they're expecting it. When they're not is when something happens that's not expected. So that's the big thing when you get sidewalls, then is a lot of it's just being able to react to make sure that your customers have the right expectations. So that tool out there where we're getting that text message when an order's delayed, being able to reach out to that customer and let them know exactly what's going to happen, be able to calm any sort of anxiety that comes along, that makes a big difference.
But even earlier on in the process, like where Brooks is talking about on the top of the funnel, where you're generating awareness, people are arriving at your website, it's important that you think through the anxieties that people have on their mind at that point, and the things that we think through just by talking to our customers. And this is where having our on-farm store was really valuable, just to have direct interactions with customers. But what we find is that by the time they arrive at our website, they're fairly frustrated because they most likely wanted to start eating healthy, and they probably started out buying products in the grocery store and then got through this learning process and understand that there's just a lot of greenwashing and the fact that you really can't trust labels. And by the time they arrive at our website, a lot of them have a fair amount of anxiety and frustration. And the question on their mind is, and we tell our support people this because it's easy to get defensive, but the question on their mind is, do you really do what you say you do? Which is the reason we started the farm tour email campaign, and we just try to get as many customers out to the farm as possible. But we address that in our messaging. On our website, there's places that say, we know that you're frustrated. We know that you're looking for a farm that you can trust. And so, we speak to those anxieties, and that's one of the biggest frustrations people have is confusing labels. And so speak to that, So we actually went through a process called story branding. It's a book by Donald Miller called Building Your Story Brand, the best marketing book we've ever read. And it's a short read, and it gives you actionable framework to build a process to step through to build out your message and to discover what those anxieties are on a customer's mind, so you can speak to them and address them in the kind of the relationship building phase.
Great. Looks like we have a question from Tim in the chat. Have you had to sunset your subscribers faster since you added the super magnet? Has that method had a significant effect on list engagement?
Do you understand the question, Brooks?
So I'm not sure, maybe by sunset, you're meaning if we're like actually pruning our email list, aren't engaging well. Blaine, can you hear me? Yeah, that's how I take the question, which we've always automatically pruned our email list. So basically on a certain time period, I think it's once every 6 months or so, anyone who hasn't read an email, the last like 10 emails that we've sent, they haven't opened anything, those people will just automatically get pruned just based off of that low level of engagement. But I will say, and Blaine, you might be able to dig deeper on this, but since we started collecting those email addresses with that super lead magnet, as we call it, conversion rates have stayed the same. We did not see a less impact on conversion rates. Even though the number of emails we were getting went way up, our conversion rate stayed the same, which was what we wanted to see.
And that was a really savvy question, because that's not what you want to do. You don't want to increase you just want to bring in junk email subscribers. But what we found, and we looked at that really close, because that was our concern is, okay, we're getting more email addresses, but are we getting more orders and more customers? And the answer was an overwhelming yes. But great question, very relevant.
Em also has a question. How do you track and manage sales tax nexus stuff?
Brooks.
Yeah, that's a good question. We're really lucky being in Indiana, where we're a destination-based sales tax, and so that means we're paying sales tax on online orders based off of what sales tax is in Indiana, and we do not have any sales tax on grocery items. So that's something that we don't actually have to deal with. So I haven't gone really deep into what the full compliance would be, because of course this is going to vary depending on what state you're in. Some states allow for sales tax for certain counties or city districts, so it can get very, very complicated, unfortunately, depending on where you're located when it comes to selling online. There's tools out there if you want to dig deeper into, kind of the first step to know, hey, how do I become compliant with sales taxes, to have this understanding of how does sales tax work in your area. And a really great place that has good information on this is a company called TaxJar. They're basically an online app that e-commerce platforms will integrate with that help track the sales tax. But they have an online blog with a lot of great resources and information that can help you figure out what does compliance even mean for you in your area. So highly, highly recommend that resource.
Great. Another question, what is the best email program to use? I have both Gmail and Microsoft Office, and both have weak areas.
So I guess it depends on what you mean by email program. We use, for our actual email service, we do use a Google Business Suite, correct, Brooks? You should speak to this. I don't.
That's all for internal, tools and emails. So everyone on the staff has it's a G Suite, so it's a Gmail account using their business service based off of our custom domain. But for actual communicating with our customers and marketing emails, we use a service called Drip, which Blaine mentioned there in his presentation. So that's what we're using to run that weekly newsletter off of. Those automated, new buyer workflows, those emails that people will get for 9 months once they start purchasing from us. That's all handled through a platform called Drip. And it's more of an advanced tool. It starts out as a paid tool. So it's one of the more expensive options, but it's very, very powerful. And because of how well it integrates with our website through GraceCart, that's how we can get very intelligent in the follow-ups that we're sending to our customers to make sure that we're always communicating very relevant information. So well worth the return on the investment that we're getting from that platform. So that's the tool. And it's a tool we don't get, we don't get any kickback from them, but it's a great product. And that's what we recommend for anyone who's going down this path. But
Brooke, step one, if you're email marketing, you need to set up a custom email address. So, sales or support@yourfarmname.com. So it needs to be a custom URL and a custom email. And you can use Google Business Suite. There's a lot of different email platforms you can integrate with, or I guess get set up with for your custom email domain. But that's important because if you try to use something like MailChimp, or I don't even think Drip allows you to, but if you try to send emails from a Gmail address using a email sending platform, your deliverability rate is going to be so low because all spammers, they use Gmail addresses. Is Hotmail even still around? I don't even know, but they use all those generic email services. And someone's laughing at Hotmail probably is still around. I don't know. But anyways,
I have mine. It's my junk one.
So get a custom email address. That way your emails actually get delivered.
All right. Dawn, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So my question goes back kind of to the beginning of the presentation when you talked about convenience. And I guess my question is, if you were just getting started, one of the things you talked about was you started out by doing quarter beeves, half beef, that type of thing. But people like getting the cuts and having them, what if that's just not possible? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, if you're not in a place where you can store the meat yet, or is it kind of a deal breaker, or would you move forward?
Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing something that's working, don't cold turkey stop that. And I want to emphasize that because we've had some folks come away from these presentations, stop what they were doing, even though it may not have been growing very well, but keep that going. We've had several, Brooks, I think Liz Cunningham out in Oregon, she's a client that's all she did was freezer beef, and she had built a nice business with it, and it was growing slowly. But she went ahead and launched a GraceCart website, and she just added a business on, another option for customers to buy online and to buy cuts from them. So the big thing about if you're currently using the freezer beef model, really interrogate that model, because there's most likely things that you can do to make that process easier for your customer. And maybe it's the ordering process you can make easier. Maybe you can set up some online forms to make things easier, or an online way to make a deposit, or maybe just eliminate a deposit altogether. That's what we did when we were in the freezer beef business, is we just eliminated deposits, and that took a lot of the barriers out of it for customers. We slowly did things like, instead of sending the customer to the processor to pick up, we slowly started, intercepting the product, getting it back to the farm, and having them pick up at the farm. And slowly but surely, we found ways to make it more convenient, whether it was the ordering process. When people would place orders for custom beef, we were able to get it set up online so they could do it online, and we would use recommendations, so that, because a lot of people are brand new to ordering freezer beef that we were serving, and so we would give them suggested ways to cut up their carcass that they're ordering, and we found a lot of people just following our suggestions. So there are a lot of things you can do to make a freezer beef model more convenient. But if you're doing that, don't just cold turkey stop.
Yeah.
Keep doing it, try to improve it, and then maybe as you grow, you can all start selling cuts at some point.
Yeah, and to add on to that, just it depends on your context and how motivated you are to continue to grow and get through that phase of business. But you don't want to turn off the cash flow. That's what you need in order to continue to invest in the business and be able to make pivots down the road. So we recommend sticking with it. And there's still, like Blaine mentioned, a lot of these strategies that you can still employ to make that program more effective, which can actually help you get to selling cuts maybe even faster. One thing I would do if I was doing freezer beef is I would use that launch model that Blaine went over, because it's a seasonal process. It only happens once a year. It's a very exclusive thing. And if you start growing that email list, I would do a launch every year that you have animals going in for processing. And, if you get more people to commit through using that strategy, that makes you less dependent on the need to actually require deposits, because you got interested buyers for what you have. And, that's not as much of a risk for you to not require the deposits on that side. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to encourage everybody, if you are using a freezer beef model, and if it's meeting your goals and you're building a business that's meeting your goals, then just improve it. And you can always make it more convenient, no matter what buying process you're using.
Awesome. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat at this point. Oh, Dana's in line. Dana, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah. How often do you find yourself firing customers? What's your approach to that? Because we all know that like 1% of them cause like 75% of the trouble, the Karens, if you will. No offense.
It's not very often, but it does happen. Brooks, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we're not afraid to do it. What we normally will do is, when there's a poor experience and we feel like it's, or there's a customer that feels like more of a burden than they're worth, typically we'll offer grace a few times. And then once we feel like we're being taken advantage of, that's when we just have that honest conversation and let them know that we feel like they're a better fit servicing somewhere else and that we can't quite meet those needs.
We let them know that our concern is, if you continue to order, we're just not set up to meet your needs, and we'll continue to disappoint you. And that's the last thing we want to do. And so we really cannot take another order from you, because we don't want you to have another disappointing experience. Maybe down the road we'll be set up to handle your needs, but at this time we're just not. So we can't continue to do business with you, and try to make it to their best interest to not do business anymore. And you have to be careful though, because they'll leave a scathing Google review, and you don't want that. So, but
yeah,
that's helpful framing.
Yeah, good. It's a good question too, though, because you're right that I would argue maybe it's less than 1%, but they do cause 90% of the headaches. So, your energy spent on your best customers is where you're going to get your highest return. So you can't be afraid to fire those that are adding that burden, so you can spend more time to invest in your best customer. So it's a great question.
One question I have is, do you guys have a built-in sort of a corporate margin? So after processing, is there a certain percentage of sales that goes towards the marketing and the distribution and those sort of things?
So our marketing and distribution is separated as two different businesses. So it's tracked completely separate. So the production side has their, margin targets, if you will, and profit targets. And then there's an actual real transaction where the farm sells the, usually with beef, it's sold by the hanging weight to our marketing, side of the business. And then the marketing then has a margin that it makes on top of that. And typically we shoot for like at the end of the day, we need to see at least a 35% margin on just the marketing side. And it's great if you can hit a 20 to 30% margin on the production side, before that transaction happens in the marketing arm. So we aim for, sometimes on some products, it's as low as 15 to 25% margin on the production farm side before it sells to the marketing business. But then once it gets into the marketing business, we want to see an end of the year margin of 35% or more, which means you're going to sell some products for 60% margins or more. And you may have some products like ground beef that you just can't demand that kind of a margin from. But if you get to our website, like if you're buying individual cuts, typically our margin on that is 45%. But then if you start buying things like the Best of Farm box or the Best of Beef box or a quarter beef box, there's where our margins get lower and give value to customers for ordering in bulk. So, but at the end of the year, we at least want it to come out to 35%.
All right. Paul's got a question in the chat. Do you do your own processing? If not, where do you go?
Brooks, you want to take that question? Or?
Sure. Yeah. So we do not do any of our own processing at this point. We are not afraid to travel to find a good processor. This is something I was talking to our group about in our breakout session, because we've used a lot of different processors over the years, and it's it's not a very competitive industry, and there's a lot of demand. So that means that there's not a whole lot of effort put towards quality a lot of times with processors. So we actually will try. We make a 3.5-hour trip up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to a facility called Byron Center Meats. They do all of our final fabrication and packaging. There's another facility that does the harvesting. So they kind of have a rail network where the animals get processed at one facility, then they go to Byron Center for final processing. And they do an excellent job. They have a priority towards service, and it's well worth that drive that we're making every single week to ensure that it's a huge component in the process to make sure that you're providing a quality product to your customers, because you're probably very motivated to focus on quality on the production side, but if your processor can't make sure that your customers are getting a quality experience from the packaging, then that becomes a problem on that side. So
yeah, the processing can literally sabotage everything we just talked about, that whole journey, the magical moments, all that work you're going to. But that is probably the number one mistake we made, and that we see other farms making when it comes to processing is putting too high of a priority on how close is this processor and how cheap do they process. And those things should be on the kind of more towards the last of the priority spectrum, that you should be looking for what their processing capabilities are. And really the thing that drew us to our processor was the first phone call we had with them. It was the first processor we had ever talked to that you could tell through their voice that they actually wanted our business. And you could just tell the people there were amazing. And sure enough, we visited them, and this is early on in our business, and we would never have dreamed driving 3.5 hours to a processor. But we knew this could make the difference in our business. And we did that, I think, 8 years ago, and made that transition. And it was a night and day difference. And our business, Seven Sons, is very much, a two-part partnership with our processor. We couldn't exist without each other. And they do a fantastic job. So be willing to drive further, pay a little more. It can make an incredible difference on the evergreen retention aspect of your business, and just make life easier for you. So.
Great. Dana, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm guessing the answer is no for this on the seafood aspect, but for everything else, is this just meat from your farm? Or are you aggregating?
We do aggregations. If you go to our About Us page, and there'll be links to some of the farms that we work with. So, originally everything was from our farm, and even till this day, we have 12,000 laying hens. So all the eggs come right from our farm. We have the 600 hogs, so all the pork comes from our farm. But on the beef side, that has been the most difficult one to scale because the grass-fed beef enterprise is so land extensive. So for all the 800 beef that we sell every year through our website, 200 are raised on our farm, and the remaining 600 are from a select group of farm partners that we have. And we have a thriving, actually, I think it's the second largest Amish community in Northeast Indiana, Shipshewana, Topeka area. And we have a lot of farms that got producers that got knocked off the organic valley trucks because they were too small. And so a lot of those farms, we've built a very vibrant network of producers. And then on the poultry side, we work with David Boatwright out of Missouri that raises our poultry. And we get behind these producers and tell their stories too. It's that authenticity that adds and trust that you have to keep intact, even if you are scaling and working with other producers. And that's something we really, really encourage farms to be careful about over diversifying on their production side. We'd rather see a farm maybe start a beef enterprise and maybe a pork enterprise and try to refine those early on. And if you want to sell poultry, maybe find a nearby farm in your region that already has an established pastured poultry business, and maybe just work with them, tell their story to your customers, and you create a diverse product offering, which is what your customer wants. You just have to be careful when not overwhelming yourself. And we call that death by diversity. Biological diversity in the soil, a wonderful thing. Business diversity, not always a wonderful thing. So big difference there. So don't be afraid to partner with folks. And maybe it's just an aspect of your production process that you partner with a producer on. Maybe you don't raise your calves. Maybe you buy calves from a trusted partner and just finish them on your farm. Those are always good steps to take to just take so much of the burden and cash flow issues off your capital requirements off your plate.
Mhm.
As a follow-up question to that, I guess that would be a moment of anxiety for me, at least from what I've seen of your guys' website. It seems it's like the message to me that I've gotten so far is like, this is all our stuff. So I guess I guess I'm wondering, like, as someone who wants to help other farmers and aggregate, how granular do you need to get about, okay, this is our pork versus this is not our pork? I would hate for anyone to ever get the idea that, like, I'm saying one thing but actually I'm not raising, it's tricky.
Yeah, and this was a huge moment of anxiety for us. I mean, we've fought it for so many years. Until we realized we're really not doing any of our farmers in our own community any favors by not working with them. And ultimately we're not doing customers any favors by not being able to serve them. So, I mean, if you get on our email list, there's a specific email that goes out that talks about our farm partnerships and network that we're building, takes them to follow-up pages. And, it's as long as you're transparent about it. And also when we made a transition, because there was a point in our business where, we said it right on our website, born, raised, and finished on our farm. And so when we made a pivot to start working with producers, we sent very intentional email communications out to our customers stating, here's what we're doing, here's the opportunity, here's our mission and goal for doing this. Here are the producers that we're working with. With some of our Amish producers, it does get trickier with using video and photography to share their stories, but we still do. We just launched a grass-fed milk product that comes from Jonathan Lambright in Shipshewana, Illinois, or Shipshewana, Indiana, and we took our cameras up there, and he was able to do a voiceover recording, but we shot a nice little video and it just introduced Jonathan to our customers. So we are intentional about making sure we share and are transparent about it. Go ahead.
I was going to add to that too. And, we think a lot about when we're communicating this as well. Probably when someone lands on your homepage, you're not going to see all this detailed information about where everything's coming from. Hey, you know what? The farrowing operation happens from this farm. We finish here. All that, the customer and the visitor at that point, thinking complete stranger, they're not invested enough in us to even care
To even
about
care,
that
yeah.
information at that point. But once they're further down the funnel and they have supported the business, or they're closer to making that buying decision, that's when they're going to care to give us more of their attention. We can communicate these things to them and be transparent, which is what they want, but they don't want it when they first land on your homepage. Their attention spans are too low at that point. So we spend, like Blaine was saying, we spend thousands of dollars every year sending my brother with a camera out to these other farms that we work with, creating stories to help tell what they do and to help our customers know, and our customers appreciate that. But again, you're not going to see that all over the homepage.
We just had a Google review that came in last week, Brooks, that was talking about the products, and then they said, "I love the fact that they're helping other farms." So it can be a big benefit, and we really promote it. The other thing I was going to say is that, when someone arrives at your website, just because you're working with other farms and helping other farms, you don't have a big alert thing. Hey, we work with other farms. Again, you communicate them to that in the right sequence on the right pages and parts of the website. And that goes for even some of the things that you're most proud of. Some of the things that most farms are most proud of and want to communicate to their customers, the stuff shouldn't go on the homepage. It's just noise and confusion. Most people that are frustrated about labels and just want to find a convenient place to buy something from a farm that really does what they say they do, they really don't care about what breed of hogs you're raising. Take that off the homepage. They don't care about the breed of cattle that you've obsessed about and worked so hard to build, even though it's so important to us and meaningful to us. We've had to cut so much what we feel like is really meaningful information. We've just had to cut it down, especially on the homepage and some of that early content. Be very, very intentional about providing the information that solves the immediate anxieties that are on their customer's mind at that point, or a visitor. They're not even a customer yet.
Thanks.
There's a question in the chat. Could you speak a little bit more about those relationships with other partners, and if it's contractual and kind of how they work?
And they're very much so on the handshake. We'll do some contracts with some farms, and really these relationships have just happened organically over the years. For example, with our pig program, pastured pig program, at one time we had 60 to 70 sows, and we did all of our own farrowing on our farm. And over time, we met several Amish farms. And actually, there's an Amish farm that we worked with closely for seed stock production. And he introduced us to a lot of his neighbors. And there was a couple of farms that really wanted to help out by raising farrowing our pigs. So we finally at one point sold all of our sows to there was two smaller Amish farms that agreed to buy them, and with an agreement that we would buy the offspring from them back each year. And that has been one of the best partnerships that we develop. And it's just on a handshake. But they're selling feeder weight pigs back to us at about 80 pounds. So we let them get plenty big on their farm. That way they're nice and hardy by the time they make the transition to our farm. And we pay them double, what they could sell those hogs for anywhere else. And so it works really well. When you do partner with other producers, you have to make it profitable for them. And that does add, it takes some potential profit maybe out of your equation. But if supply is your problem, you have to begin building some partnerships at some point, and offer value to the people that you work with, and make sure you're giving them enough value to go to the extra effort that they need to go to ensure the quality. So that I guess that's an example of one of the most successful partnerships we have, is with those two Amish farms that took over the farrowing for us. And they love it because it gives their, in our area, in Amish country, the Amish are very concerned about their culture changing with all the manufacturing jobs coming into their areas. And so they really want something for their kids and family to be involved in. And so it really adds to their quality of life to be able to have a profitable, farrowing enterprise that's outdoors on their farm. And what's interesting is they took the innovation of a pasture-based farrowing model to a whole new level, and they did a far better job. Their weaning rates were far better than ours. The pigs were healthier than what we were producing, just because they were very focused on it, and they were innovative with the systems they used for farrowing outdoors and the movable pens that they created. So I think I've gone on long enough, but I guess that's an example of a farm that partnerships that we've had in the past. Is there any more specific questions? I'm happy to follow up on any.
I think that's it for that topic, at least. Cindy was wondering about where your lamb comes from.
So we've been working with Eric Wallace, who's in Michigan, for lamb. That was a connection through the folks we work with at MSU. But Eric Wallace raises all of our lamb currently. And lamb has been a product that hasn't actually, I think we talked to a lot of other direct marketers and they sell a lot more lamb than we do. And I don't know why, but we don't sell a whole lot of lambs each year. But Eric Wallace does a great job for us. So that's not an enterprise that we have on our farm.
One last question. Do you send all your animals to that same processing center you were talking about earlier?
Yes, that was one of the big value propositions. Well, not all poultry.
Poultry can be different. Yeah.
Yeah, poultry is a separate processor, but all the large animals go through Byram Center Meats, which is a big deal because it provides consistency across all the proteins and all the different packaging, and also keeps the quality control feedback loop, really easy to manage and maintain. So you're not trying to, interact with 3 different processors and maintain quality control that way. So, but the poultry is at a separate processor, right?
Yep.
There were a couple comments asking if LSP can bring you guys back to talk about some other topics. Hogs is one, and chickens. So maybe that's in the works in the future.
There'd have to be some different brothers show up to those ones, I think.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
We'll get to meet the family.
Yeah.
Good time
Bring them,
there.
trickle everyone through.
Well, thank you so much, Brooks and Blaine. And I'm seeing things pop up in the chat. This is just so much great info for folks. Lot to digest here, but it's super exciting, I think, to have you both out and the experiences that you've had, the lessons you've taken away. Really appreciate your transparency around that too. So I know you got to take off. So if folks want to do one last round of just showing appreciation for these two, thank you so much for your time today.
You bet.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Awesome. We're going to keep the show going here with a couple announcements. We'll take a break, and then we have our local regional farm panel with Jack McCann and Ian Rhodes. So really quick, we have upcoming events, soil health for veggie farmers. The next one's on cover crops on December 16th. We have a compost check-in call on January 19th and a soil health workshop on February 16th. So stay tuned for more information coming out about the ones that are down the road a little bit, but otherwise upcoming events like these are posted on our LSP website calendar, social media page, and we typically send out flyers and emails about them as well. One way that you can stay engaged in soil health specifically is by joining our free Soil Builders Network. At the heart of this network is our 850 soil builders, mainly farmers, who come together and learn from one another what practices they're trying out, lessons they're learning along the way. We keep soil builders informed through mailings and email, including a rockin' newsletter that we send out every other month, highlighting farmers' stories and resources. If you're looking to join that network, simply check out the Soil Builders tab on our LSP website, and you can spend about 5 minutes or so filling out a survey so we can get a better sense of what your interests are and your farm background is. And then someone from the soil health team does that personal outreach to you. Now I'm going to introduce Dana Burtness, an LSP member leader and pasture pork producer from Spring Grove, Minnesota, to talk about why she is a member of LSP. Take it away, Dana.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I LSP is my favorite nonprofit. And I feel like, why wouldn't you? This is even like a funny little spiel to give, because it's like, why wouldn't you want to just spend $35 and help one of the best nonprofits in the state do what they're doing? But one of the things I've been thinking about, like, I love this framing of moments of anxiety. And as a farmer and as an engaged citizen, we're so busy. We're so busy on our farms. But we also want to be part of changing broader systems for the better. And so one of the anxiety moments that I have a lot is like, am I doing enough? Am I keeping track of enough? And that's where my LSP membership has been amazing, because I know that the LSP staff members are in constant communication with the network of farmers that are members and the farm system supporters. And it's their job to keep track of what's going on and keep in touch with us, the people who are, farming on the ground, doing the work of feeding our communities. And so I guess if we want to frame things as purging moments of anxiety, I feel like my membership in LSP purges a lot of those moments of anxiety that are like, am I doing enough? Well, as long as I like read my emails from LSP and do things when Connor and Alex ask me to help, and the organizers, that's something that I can sort of mentally cross off my list. Like I am participating in making the farming and food system better for everybody. And it's $35. I mean, just do it. It's a great investment in good people doing really good work that help all of us. And I learned a ton. I learned way more than $35 from this workshop alone. So I know there's a ton of different ways to join LSP. They make it super easy. You could just go to the website, or you could talk to any staff member, and I'm sure they can give you a full rundown of all the different ways to join. But I think the easiest way to do it is just go to the LSP website and join. So please join me. I guess for next year, the best time to join is Give to the Max Day, so you double your impact. But in the meantime, just join now.
Awesome. And Connor just put that, thank you, Dana. Connor just put that link in the chat box. And actually, we have a super generous member right now, Thelma Bader, who is matching anybody's renewal if they're renewing at a higher rate than they did last year or opting into a monthly giving. She is matching your gift up to $10,000, which is just awesome. That's just a tidbit of the generosity of our members and the passion that they bring to our organization. So with that, we are going to head into a break here and
introducing our next presenters. Up next, we have Jack McCann, who runs TC Farms. They're located just west of Minneapolis, and they aggregate and distribute meat and other food products into the Twin Cities. And joining Jack is Ian Rhodes, and Ian runs Auntie Annie Fields and partners with Jack to market and distribute his meat as well from his farm. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it right over to them and to start their presentation. Thanks, guys.
Cool, thanks. I will share my PowerPoint here, see if this works. And see, you should see my screen, is that right? All right, so as Connor said, we work together as a cooperative group. And so this is really just a little bit of background on my folly into this situation. But my background is actually computers. I did computer work. We did IT consulting back in the day when I was in high school. I actually started a business partner, built that business up. We sold hardware. We were the second high-speed internet provider in town, and we sold that to the Geek Squad spinoff. And then I started doing consulting work for one of my longtime clients at power plants and refineries. I know nothing about power plants and refineries. So my entire career has basically been figuring something out that I knew nothing about and making lots of mistakes. And learning from those. So I didn't really pretend I knew about refineries, but I did know about people and how to organize people and work process and trying to make computer systems work for people. And that was really what my role was in these consulting jobs. And from there, you know, we went into farming really through a passion of food. Betsy and I love to cook. We had the Gateway Drug book that you've all probably read. We found eggs from a local little farm that looked like this, and the chickens ran outside, and they were charging us an outrageous $4 a dozen. And then when they went to $5, I thought they were just ripping us off. And you know, that was not really, I felt like same little price. We found seed savers, planted lots of crazy garlic and different varieties of produce. And what I did was I got those fancy lettuces, you know, from the seed savers I read about from Michael Pollan, and planted those in a planter box in our guest room. And the lettuce was super good. And I didn't really, you know, like lettuce, frankly. So it was interesting that we had these different varieties of lettuce, and it was really good. I just picked the lettuce off the plant and just eat it. And I was like, wow, this is really good. So there's got to be some way to get other food that tastes like this. And so we decided, well, we can find some sort of better chicken or meat. You know, if I like lettuce like this, there's got to be a better tasting chicken out there. And so we looked, you know, at the grocery stores and things, and we saw all these kind of farms or claims. These are claims from you'll see on the grocery store eggs, right? We're all familiar with that. And I look at this 108 square feet of pasture that you see on there, and they put 20,000 birds in a barn when they give them 108 square feet. So those of you who are in farming know that's 50 acres. And I don't know if you've never seen chickens outside, but usually they're not going 1,500 feet, you know, from their home base. So we figured that that's all the chickens are going to be in that one spot. They eat all, there's not really pasture. And my little analogy is if you just try to do the math, it's probably something around 1,500 birds per half-acre suburban lot that you're really getting in a grocery store. And so customers are not buying what they think they're buying. We were not buying. We realized that what we wanted to buy, or what that equivalent of that really tasty salad would be. And so we were disappointed and wanted to go further. And in particular, you know, we looked at the colorants that are used in the egg yolks in the store, and said this isn't really what we wanted. Saw the headlines, you see they're eating sawdust or kid candy or Skittles for their beef. And so as a consumer, we were just kind of disillusioned with what was out there, and decided we would make our own little hobby farm. We would get different breeds of chickens. We tried 3 breeds, and we had our little hobby farm. And this is a Red Ranger, and there's a rainbow back there that we don't have a picture in the picture, but we tried a naked neck one. So we didn't raise any Cornish cross birds. And we were really surprised how different they tasted, and we were happy with it. Made a little hobby farm. Like a lot of people that made hobby farms were completely overwhelmed with making like a little Noah's Ark with way too much stuff that we didn't know about. And yeah, decided we'd make it into a business. Everybody would want these super tasty chickens. So then we had these really pretty eggs like that, and we just added customers and went to little stores, kind of pretty guerrilla marketing. We'll make a meat CSA, and found 50 or 100 people that would sign up for $100 a month to fund our little plan that was basically sell the product and then figure out how we're going to do it. So it took us probably 6-9 months after we signed up all the people before our first delivery. We had those eggs we'd sell, you know, on a regular basis. They were a nice little, having eggs that looks like that is a pretty nice way. I think they were $5 at that time. And so we made stuff up. We didn't know what we were doing. We made the welding. We built that little mobile coop, which is similar to what Seven Sons is using, I think, in their mobile coops. And they went down there. And this is where we were animal welfare approved at the time on this farm. And that's when Ian and Elizabeth got in touch with us to find out what was actually required for that. Were they interested in doing that? And that's, so this kind of era of that picture is when our relationship started, which is probably what, 7-8 years ago. But like a lot of farming, we just kind of patch things together. Here's a perfect example of barely hanging on when we first started out. I mentioned that I could earlier that barely surviving, I could relate to that feeling. But here's our little delivery truck that we built. There's Betsy's dad taught us all this welding fabrication stuff we knew nothing about, and built that little insulated cooler, a little cool bot on top of there. And then we could hang actually hung a little generator off the side so we could run the cool bot while we were driving around town. It was quite a scene. But this is the night before our first delivery when we finished putting it on the truck. So we really got in over our heads to start and just kind of had to survive. They mentioned that first 3-year period, and I thought, oh, 3 years, that's pretty good. They could feel like they were not surviving for more than 3 years. Then then we got more hodgepodge stuff. We didn't have a skid loader, so we built this little contraption on the back of the 3-point out of a broken forklift, and there we are picking the orders for about 6-month pregnant Betsy in the freezer. So we had I don't know, this was probably the mess we made in the refrigerated section at J&B Cold Storage, the no name state company. They let us use their dock at the time. I don't know, we would never get to do that now, but we probably had 80 customers or 100 customers at that point. We're picking all those individual packages for them. So that was our logistics towards the beginning. And here's one of our deliveries organized earlier this year. It's actually a video of a couple different deliveries. I don't know if that's playing okay for you, but basically all these little boxes are each individual items. Eric's on the call, and if you remember, you might see some of your stuff there. But our processors made all these little tiny boxes. You know, this might be 6 pounds of ground beef. That one might be 5 pounds of bacon, or a variety package of chicken parts or something. And each of those items our customers could order as a pre-packed item. And then we put the labels on basically to get them in the order of the delivery. So each of those stacks are all the ground beef we were selling that time. And then we pick the items in sequence of the delivery. So the last box on top is the first box that we're delivering. We do everything completely different. 2020 has totally revamped our entire flow. Those of you that might have been in the call early heard us talking about with Seven Sons that we're picking everything in the freezer section now. So we're actually picking individual customers' orders on that for each person's order. They get their own box, similar to what you'd expect from like Amazon or whatever. So they get a single box with all their items that are ordered into it. This is an example of our delivery routes, of the neighborhood routes going way out to Hastings and St. Cloud and stuff. Those are neighborhood pickups. We have about 70 neighborhood pickups or so. I think Seven Sons said they had 35 and closed them all just from the overwhelming demand. And we're definitely pushing people away from pickup sites at this point. We just don't have enough coolers. We can't have 100 people picking up at somebody's backyard. And so this whole year resulted in us, all these little tiny stops all over are all the home deliveries. So you can just see that just blew up our logistics. So big challenge of our business is just managing the physical product and getting it to customers. All of this is just direct courier. We're not shipping it on FedEx or UPS. We're dropping it off with our drivers or contracted drivers to do all of this. And so we got really overwhelmed at doing all of this stuff. We had a butcher's license at first. We tried to raise all of our everything ourselves as much as we could, and we had a baby, and I was still consulting in California. I mean, it was really overwhelming, and so over time we founded people we were comfortable partnering with and working with them, especially you know, to be able to call here. And then you've got the processing plant. We work with their family. They do most of our red meat, not all of it, and the poultry is separate. Also all of our sausages and stuff. So I really like having that, like they mentioned, having several processors you can work with, that you can support, make it be a viable, hopefully a viable lifestyle for them, and all the farms that we're with, trying at least to make it a sustainable lifestyle and financially viable for everybody. It's a challenge even at our scale, I think, to really make that work, but it seems like there's always like at the end of the tunnel that, okay, maybe if we can just do this, it'll be more work better for everybody in the group. So I don't know, Ian, I meant to stay on this slide, and so, you know, I don't know if I was really quick on that. So I'm happy to go through more about it, but I wanted to leave some time for questions. But Ian, if you want to explain a little bit how you guys came into it and what works for you from a partnership side. It seemed like there were some questions on that earlier too.
Yeah. So we moved out of South Minneapolis about 11 years ago, and bought 20 acres out in the country here. Excuse me 1 second. Anyway, and so we started doing this about, I don't know, about what, 11 years ago, 12, oh my gosh, probably like 12 years ago now. And we were just doing, we just did 60 chickens out in the, the field beside the house. And we started doing farmers markets, which is great, but we pretty quickly, realized that the labor that we were putting into farmers markets and the amount that we were able to sell at farmers markets, it was just really hard for us to be making any money doing that. And I know that for some people that works out really well. We weren't really good at the marketing. And so, I know people who sign up have, CSA, signups, people coming to their farmers market stands, and they're moving enough product to really make it worth it. And I know people who market well enough on farm, that they are making a living doing it that way. But we were really struggling doing that. It was not our strong suit, and being new to farming, we were trying to do laying hens and meat chickens and hogs. We were really in over our heads. Plus we were both working jobs on top of that. I'm a public school teacher as well. And so but the nice thing with doing farmers markets for us is we got enough experience and enough scale, though still really small, that when we met Jack, which was just kind of, happenstance that, my wife, Elizabeth, had followed him online, and we met him while we were on our way back from a vacation. And he asked us if we wanted to raise 400 chickens for him the following year. And we said, yeah, we can do that. And so we did that, and we kept raising, then we did 600, 1,200, 1,800 for Jack, and we kept doing farmers markets. But a lot of you have probably done farmers markets, and the labor is just huge. And so we finally kind of took the leap, and we were scared to do it because it kind of literally put all our eggs in one basket, because we sell pretty much everything to Jack now. Aside from a couple of customers who've just stuck with us because they like us and come buy stuff on the farm, and we sell whole and half hogs directly to our customers. But our values really aligned with Jack's. We do everything raised on pasture, chickens, everything's free range, everything's on pasture, it's all organic feed. So it really lined up with what Jack wanted to do. And when we, realized that we could take 600 chickens in to be processed, and then we were done at that point, we didn't have to go back and make multiple trips to the processor and pick them up. And I mean, we had an army of, I think we had 9 chest freezers, because we hadn't invested in a walk-in freezer. We had like 9 chest freezers, and then we outgrew those. So we were literally going to a little freezer, what do they call them? Cold storage freezer, meat locker. But we're talking about hand loading meat literally into drawers that you pull out. And and the locks don't work, and it was kind of just a ridiculous amount of labor for what we were doing. And so we made the leap and started selling everything to Jack, which has been really it's what's kept us farming, really, just for what our style and our strengths were, and being new as everything we were to, kind of like some of the Seven Sons folks talking about trying to do one thing well. For us, focusing on trying to get good at raising birds for meat and raising birds for eggs has been a huge amount of growth and a huge amount of challenge. And just trying to do that well has been as much as we've been able to take on, or really more than we've been able to take on. And because, like they were saying, doing any weak link, the processing, the marketing, any of that doesn't work out, it can sink all the rest of it. And so it's also put us in the interesting place of trying to figure out, because when you go from doing direct sales to wholesale, even working with a really good situation like working with Jack, you're still getting a lot less per bird, per pound, per dozen eggs. And so what really is that realistic price point that works for you doing wholesale? And what scale do you need to get to? It's scary getting bigger and not sure if you can supply the labor for it. And the investments to grow can be gigantic. We've had some good help from grants, but it starts being like anything we start looking at doing, it's like, you're looking at $5,000, $10,000 for really any kind of upgrade or more, really any kind of efficiency upgrade that you're trying to do. But then again, without those upgrades, we just haven't been able to, to sustain it. So and we're still at a point where we're not making what we need to, but as we expand and invest on those efficiencies, and Jack's been, I think sometimes when we talk about our business, I know Jack's kind of, just seeing Jack as just the marketer or the broker makes it seem like it's not really a collective cooperative effort. But kind of like Seven Sons was saying, working with Jack, every time we come to him with this isn't working out, or really not getting enough for this, his response is always, okay, well, how can I work with you on that? Let's meet, let's talk that over, because it's got to be sustainable for all of us. And so in that way, it really has been a partnership for us. And even though we haven't gotten to the point where we want to yet, it's exciting in that we're trying to figure what are the efficiencies that we can gain while still being on a, relatively speaking, a really small scale. And we're only literally 10 years out from raising 100 or 200 birds. And our scale right now, just to be clear, right now we have 1,200 laying hens. And this past year, I think we did 4,000 some broilers. So we're not tiny, but we're kind of at that difficult point of trying to be big enough and efficient enough to do wholesale. And where is that point where you can gain enough efficiencies of scale and efficiencies of investment? And where can we still be true to what we want to do? Because there are some efficiencies we're just not going to gain. I don't think we can ever get to nest boxes with conveyor belts, because I think you probably need around 2,500 birds in a barn to make that work, and you need a stationary barn. And I don't think you're going to get the birds on pasture doing that. And so I don't think we're ever going to gain that efficiency. But what are our nest box efficiencies and our packing efficiencies and our feed and water delivery efficiencies that we can gain? And then what are our marketing efficiencies, in working with Jack? And so, so we've come to a point where this is what we're trying to do, what we're trying to make work, and kind of figuring out the scale, the efficiencies that we can do to be marketing in this way. And eventually, and as we're doing that, how can we also bring the price can we get the price to the consumer to be as fair as we can have that be? Because as a lot of you have been, I kind of cut my teeth farming, working on a farm, we were a cooperative, trying to pay ourselves $2 an hour, driving broken down Volvos, delivering food to, fancy restaurants that none of us could eat at. And so at any rate, I can kind of stop there. And I don't know, Jack, if you want to say more to that, or when we want to go to questions, or exactly what our timeline looks like here.
I'll have a couple slides I'll pull up for them. Again, and I can try not to go quite as fast. Let me see, how do I do that?
And Connor and Alex, I kind of forget if there are other things that you wanted me to touch on that I may have missed in this.
So that's basically was a good summary. Kind of, I went real fast on our business, and then trying to get. We really needed people like Ian. We have several people we work with to try to make it happen. And so Betsy and I moved off the farm a few years ago. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago, and live in town. She teaches at the University of Minnesota, runs the marching band there, and other music classes. And so we just couldn't live on our farm property anymore. So I kind of got a computer job, which was the last thing. That was kind of what I wanted to get away from. But it worked out. And I get to pretend to be a farmer and visit people, and maybe we both wish we traded seats sometimes, I don't know. But so our goal, one of our challenges is logistics. And the other thing I'm trying to really work on more now, as we solve the logistics, is kind of make food be more fun and more approachable for people. So here's just a quick little example video.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and today we're going to make chocolate brownies.
And so I just want to make even more than this, but just what can we do to engage our customers that's fun, super personal, doesn't need to be a super slick video, just click, 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 almost the less professional it is, I think the more people like it. So there's ways to engage your customers, make you seem like a real person, I think are useful. And I feel like I've gotten too busy to do enough of this kind of work, just trying to survive the business. And I'm focusing really hard on trying to get back to that side of customer engagement, teach them to cook, teach them to use our food. They might not know really how to, they think they know how to cook chicken, but they probably don't really know how to cook my chicken, right? And what can I do to help them be more successful with that? So that's one of my goals, is to do that outreach, especially with pandemic kind of thing, maybe we can do more meetings like this with our customers just directly and have a cooking Friday night, so if you've got customers that you can engage in a pretty personal way, like, here's what I'm cooking for Friday, who wants to come cook with me? Here's the ingredient list ahead of time. I think could be a fun thing for anybody selling direct to their customers could do to just make that positive engagement, make you seem like a genuine, real person that you are, and not just a website people order from. And we definitely have issues like that you see from that Seven Sons kind of talked about, or it came up in the meetings. Like, it seemed like, well, you're really raising all this stuff. They're almost too slick for a consumer to think that they're doing what they're doing. And honestly, I was a little surprised seeing their presentation and talking to them offline about what they're doing, that they are able to maintain, a certain level of their standards on that. One of the other things we're trying to work on is managing just, we had a ton of extra business. I think selling products this year, was at least easier than other years. I wouldn't say not too hard, but there was a lot more demand for local food, or just food in general, that people were cooking in their houses than normal. We saw something, probably our average customers ordering twice as much than they used to. And it's not realistic for us to expect that to continue next summer. So part of our goal is to deal with these impacts. The economy seems like a pretty big question mark. We'll see what happens with everything going on there. But we're going to try to expand, use this opportunity to expand the level of service and the type of products that we can offer. So just like I think Seven Sons said, they added the milk products. We're going to look at making an aggregated produce share that we can, when we're doing our deliveries, our customers can sign up for that, looking for farms to raise food for us. There's a picture of fruit, I guess, but so those are usually not from Minnesota, lemons and citrus, but that's the picture that was on the post. Some sort of dairy, dried fruits and nuts, cheeses. Sold a bunch of Almar cheese last month. So what can we do to, as we know our customers are going to decline next summer, what can we do to maintain our just corporate revenues, even if their share of their order of meat, that's our core product, is going to go down, or as we grow the rest of the business, hopefully the corporate can have enough revenue to just make it so we can pay more to farmers, make it so we can charge less to customers, make it so we can have better customer service with our home deliveries. And by trying to get more revenue from that same customer, I think it was 0.2 in Seven Sons slide, that's going to be our big push for the year. Of we think we can get to free home delivery every week for all of our customers, if we can get these other ancillary revenue coming in, and that even if the price is the same, that's a big increase in the level of service. So that's my slide. There's my contact information if anybody wants to reach out. And so I've kind of left a fair amount of time, I think, to talk about questions. I'm pretty open about what people want to know of the business. So I'm not sure if you have questions. I'm happy to I talk a lot, so happy to blab about whatever. I will say the warehouse industry, one thing we did happen this year was we ended up moving to our own warehouse space. So with a 50 by 50 freezer, we now have our own warehouse staff. There's a couple of people, probably hiring a third person in next year to handle the actual deliveries, the warehouse, and getting access to cold storage. As Ian mentioned, they had nine coolers and everything. That is a real challenge to deal with. And it's one of the things I want to work on over the next couple of years, is to make those distribution and logistical issues something that we could offer to other people. So I see maybe the TC Farm business splits off, and if we get good enough and have enough space that we can kind of let people plug into that network for their own branding delivery, I think that would be something I really think is needed in the state, and partnering with the different processors, in town that, well, we can, I think somebody mentioned earlier at some point, I can't drive up to town for one delivery, it's 3 hours away. But if we were picking up, several people's items from Eric's plant, that we're selling direct to customers, they all went to the same facility, then we could deliver that way more efficiently for everybody and just lower that portion that's just wasted time and money for people. So that's kind of my next couple of years goal, is to open up that network to other people, not just be like TC Farm products.
Before we get to the first question, let's just give you guys a thumbs up and thank you for that presentation. And yeah, are you seeing the chat, Jack?
I can see that chat. Yeah, you can definitely jump in if there's other stuff. I'm happy to respond to it. So the first question there was a weekly pickup event. You know, I don't know where everybody's cold storage items are. We do our weekly pickups. I'll try to find it while I'm chatting away, but we have on our website, you can look just as like an old video of my mother-in-law picking up, but we have these huge coolers and they're just at neighborhood pickup sites. And so dealing with the frozen meat and stuff is a real issue. It's, you know, vegetables, it's not best that you can just drop it off on the porch, right? But if you have a perishable product, you can't just leave a box of frozen ground beef on someone's porch in the middle of the summer. So we did do that in the pandemic. And then when the riot shut down our neighborhood pickups, we were just like, we don't have any coolers. We're leaving it on your porch. You better be home. So, but now we do have coolers people can return and reuse for home deliveries. But yeah, I think we find that we have a static route. You know, it's the second Wednesday every month is for your pickup site. If you're on a different one, it might be the Thursday after that. And we have a regular schedule for those pickups. And that way we're dropping off at a minimal number of locations. About 2/3 of our orders are going to those neighborhood pickups. And I think for us, we just leave the items there. We're not waiting. I know pretty much it's common to say, we'll meet you at this parking lot for 2 hours. I'll wait here in this window. And it's super inconvenient for people. I'll try to pull up this website and just share our network of pickup sites. I don't know if this is really answering the question or if I'm just blabbing about things. How do I get back to Zoom here? Let's see, this is what I want to do. So here's our pickup site. This is our map. And you can just use Google Maps to make a map like this. It's just if you want information, I'll do that. I can send it to you. But we just put approximate addresses. So this is somebody's house. We're not going to put their exact address just on a public website. So we just say it's about there where you can pick up on the second Wednesday. And so people can just find their closest pickup site and choose that. And then if I can try that.
Types of food your
that audio, because that's terrible. Listening to me talk. There's a picture of our coolers. So we have these big custom coolers and everybody's box is inside there. And then they just have a check sheet where they can check off their name that we know who picked up and what cooler their items are in to pick up. So we just leave those there all day and anybody can pick them up.
Thanks. So one question I have is, could you just speak a little bit about maybe kind of what scale you're at the moment, maybe how many farms you partner with, and kind of what are all the products that you guys offer on the website?
So this year we did we purchased about 11,000 chickens, and we're selling right now about 2,500 dozen eggs a month, and so that's about 1,000 meat chickens a month and a couple thousand eggs. And then from our plan for next year is to have about 500 hogs and 70 to 100 beef in the group. So there's maybe a dozen farms, and like they mentioned in the earlier call, there's a farm that really farrows most of the pigs, you know, and manages that piece, and a couple other farms that finish that, so they can have some control of genetics and feed. From a customer standpoint, we're selling something to about 1,500 people a month, 12 to 1,500 people a month on actually getting a delivery, and probably more like a couple thousand. Everything we do is just on a subscription basis. So our program is it's kind of the opposite of Seven Sons. They had all these email this and then you get the orders, and ours is reverse. Like anybody that's on the account, it's maybe not as convenient for them, but it feels like it reduces risk for me, is they have to opt out or the item is being charged and delivered. And so it creates a lot of logistical challenges, and I do question whether that scales. You know, people might forget that their stuff is coming, and so there's a lot of customer training, and it was really hard this year to onboard with that. So we're selling about $2.5 million a year of retail sales in total right now, and I would expect a year from now our goal is to be more like 4 to 6. Yeah, so that question about the delivery routes, that picture that I showed, as online. We're using, it's a fairly expensive piece of software. I really tried hard not to use it. It's called Route for Me, and that I can pull it up and show you how it works if you want. But it's a Route for Me software. You basically can import your home delivery. If you have a whole bunch of people getting a home delivery, it will optimize it. There's several optimization pieces of software out there. I forget who Harvey's another company that sells like the GrazeNet like farm software. They're more towards vegetable farms. I can see if I can find in my Slack what they use, but there's other ones out there that are just route optimization software. And the Route for Me is really nice because we get, it's really a driver tool as well. So they have an app for our drivers, and last month I think we had 7 drivers at one time on a specific day, all driving at the same time. So we're just even managing the driver questions is kind of overwhelming from a corporate perspective. But they took a picture of every drop site, every check sheet that was left, the picture of the house where the coolers were. So when we have customers call because they can't find something or they don't know what's there, we can see exactly what they're seeing. And having those tools, even though it's a few $100s a month, totally pays for itself because there's a record of where that was dropped off, especially if someone drops them off at the wrong place. We can see that they're supposed to drop off on 38th Street, but they accidentally went to 39th Street and dropped it off because there's a GPS tag on that map of where they visited. And then we can see a picture of that person's neighbor house and say, actually, it's on your neighbor's porch. Do you mind grabbing it? Sorry about that. That happened several times in the beginning. So it was really nice to have those pictures. It was kind of a godsend to have that.
Awesome. One question I have for you, Jack. If you could maybe give some advice to maybe a group of producers, a little pool in a certain region who are kind of thinking about this sort of model of aggregating things together. Do you have any sort of tips or advice on people trying to start that sort of partnership and relationships?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is pricing, and the comment that Seven Sons said that they view them as separate businesses. And what I found is very few people pay themselves enough money to do the customer service, to do the delivery, to do all of that. And so if you're setting up a group, really separate those components out. I have a farming business, it needs to be profitable and sustainable. We have a marketing distribution business that needs to be profitable and sustainable. And if you're delivering stuff for free, you're never going to be able to outsource it. When we had the eggs, we got so overwhelmed with eggs that we were charging $5 a dozen, and Betsy and I, we had 30 dozen eggs a night, and babies, and every night we would sit and clean the damn eggs all night. And again, you can relate to that, I'm sure. And Desiree and others doing that there was so much egg cleaning, and that was just felt like a full-time job. And I said, we just can't do this. So I decided to change the price on our eggs. We're selling, so that was 900 dozen a month that we were selling at that time. And I said, that's it. We're going to price, but I felt I wanted to quit the eggs. It's like, it's just not worth it. It's ruining my life. So we decided we would change the price of the eggs to $6.75, I think, so that I wouldn't feel guilty about the people that actually cared about the work we were doing. They could still get the eggs, and hopefully everybody else would stop ordering them, and we could have fewer eggs that were just worth our while. That was my compromise with myself. And we lost, so we went from $5 to $6.75 overnight, and we lost 10% of our egg orders. And I was like, that didn't work. But what it did do I was legitimately disappointed that we didn't lose those customers. And I think people need to start off at a high enough price that can pay for the things to make it a sustainable lifestyle. And what that did for us was then we said to Elizabeth that were around that time, hey, now we're getting paid $6.75 for these eggs. How about we just pay you, I don't know what it was, $4.50 or something at the time. Like, we'll pay you basically what we used to be getting paid for the eggs, and the extra money is going to pay for us to deal with the delivery and everything else. And so it changed it completely to make it so when we were charging enough money, when we got to the scale that our life was being crushed by the orders and just dealing with the customer service of it, we could find a different customer person that could do that. We could hire a courier service to do the delivery, even though it was $50 an hour, right? And if you're not paying yourself $50 an hour to do it yourself, then you're not Now it costs us like $80 an hour to do our delivery. Like, that's a lot. So I mean, our delivery bill 2 months ago was $11,000 to do that math that I pulled up. And so it's, if you're not charging enough money, I think that's too expensive. But if you're not charging yourself, enough money internally to do that yourself, then you're basically just working for free, and that's not a sustainable lifestyle. So that would be my biggest thing, is charge enough money. The other thing is figure out, especially if it's meat, those logistics around cold storage are very difficult. Try to find somewhere that will take your business. There's very few cold storage places in the cities and statewide that will let you keep your product there for reasonable prices. So we're paying, I would say, a typical price point at scale is somewhere like $18 to $22 a pallet for frozen storage. If you go to some small places, they might try to charge you $100. That's totally unsustainable, I don't think, from a price point. But we might spend a few $1,000s a month on warehousing services. Minnesota's opening up in Hudson, their new facility. They would take people that needed storage. They would also be able to do delivery and stuff. And then we used to be at Trademark in Fridley. They have some open space. As a smaller facility, you could get space too.
Great, thanks. Ian, do you want to maybe speak to any of those points, or to what someone maybe thinking about doing some more wholesale should think about if they're just getting started or considering that avenue?
Get good business advice. Partner with some, if you don't have the business background, partner with someone who does. We've worked with Jack, we work with a small business development, whatever it is, C Corporation or whatever, which if you have access to them, they're awesome. They're free. And, we have a business advisor we meet with once a month now, and he looks over our books with us and is helping us get things in order, which is actually helping me bring things back to Jack, because it's helping me get my stuff, better organized. And actually LSP was a huge help in that. We went through Farm Beginnings and Journey Person with LSP. And then as part of that, we got Farm Business Management advice. So yeah, all the stuff Jack said. I mean, think about all your costs, think about your depreciation. And two, and just in working with Jack, who's at a larger scale, it just opened things up for us. Like if you talk about washing eggs, for example, we were washing all the eggs in the kitchen sink. And we were looking at egg washers and this model or that model. And, talking with Jack, we were like, well, this one does this, that one does that. And he's like, well, let's look at the one that's really going to do what you're going to need to do. That was $13,000. But then we worked on getting a grant, which covered a fair point, actually a couple of different grants, which covered that and helped us actually build our own walk-in cooler. And that, just changed kind of our lifestyle for us, because now instead of washing eggs every day in the kitchen, and you can't miss a day because you can't wash 2 or 3 days. There's just not the capacity in your kitchen to do that. And that was a huge stressor. And now not only do we not have to do it in our kitchen, but we can hire high school kids to do it, which just really changes the dynamic, because now it's a more efficient process. We can train people, we can hire them. It's not all in our kitchen. And so, but that's an area where we're not using things efficiently yet, in terms of, we have a lot more capacity with our washing and our storage now. So that's again a question of how much do we expand to really make full use of that investment.
So I heard you're going to get like 7 more flocks and have 5,000 hens. Is that right?
Yeah, there you go. We'll keep that conversation going. But it is interesting how scale can really change things. And that was, LSP, we did holistic management courses through LSP as well, to just get an understanding of our fixed costs and our variable costs, to try to be able to do that kind of analysis well.
There's a couple
Cool.
questions in
I
the
can answer
chat.
those if you want.
Yeah, just how did you arrive at your geographic range? And another related question, how do you kind of determine the impact of delivery or pickup on the price of your products?
So our geographic range was just super organic. We found customers who would host for us. So all these pickup sites are customers or small businesses that wanted to have that foot traffic, people coming through their coffee shop or whatever. And they have to store those coolers there. So every time we would find that a site had kind of too many customers in it, we would just ask those customers who wants to get free delivery to their house, and we'll have you be a pickup site and split those sites. Or someone's kind of far away and they're like, well, I'm too far away for a pickup. Or we can even look at their addresses and be like, someone is driving from Stillwater over to, there's several people driving from Stillwater. Why don't we figure out a way to make that into our route? So that map you see on our website is just super organic from customer requests. Then the home delivery ones, we started charging $19, and that's right now is about what it costs us to do a home delivery. So I think a neighborhood pickup probably costs us $7 a person, something like that, with the scale we're at, and the home delivery is about 19. And so we charge straight up 19. So right now, that's actually a profitable piece for us. We're trying to, like I said, roll that into being a free delivery as part of the product. We didn't really think about the delivery or pickup in the pricing. I mean, as we started off not charging enough money and just realized we're not making any money. We just have to charge more total money. We're working for free. So we made the same mistakes that I'm advocating against. And so the pricing really, I think that 30 to 40% margin is, I put that in the chat, I think earlier. So if you view your farming cost as $10, a retail grocery store is going to buy a product from a distributor. They're going to sell that $10 item for $15.50 at least. I know several stores are more like 100% markup. Like if you go to the deli counter, they buy a ham, they're paying $5 for that ham if they're selling it for $10. And that's kind of the margin that you need for just the retail business to work, and viewing them as separate enterprises. And then that delivery cost can kind of just go into that. Think about if you go to Instacart, people are paying $20 for someone to pick their groceries out and deliver it to them. So those are probably your customers in a lot of cases. On the question there of the $7 per delivery, we were viewing that as like per customer cost us $7, $7, $8 or whatever for that neighborhood pickup site with those bigger coolers, just to pay for the depreciation on the coolers themselves, which are a couple $100 each, and then to pay for the driver to go there and drop it off. So that's not really, maybe that's including a little bit of the order picking too. You saw that video earlier. We viewed per customer box, we were paying our processors a couple of dollars in labor per box to put together. So when we think about our cost to pick an order right now, we're pretty efficient with it. I mean, we're able to pick $100 and some $1,000, of orders in a couple of days with a crew of 3-4 people in a freezer. So we're pretty efficient, but it still is costing us, at least a few dollars per order to pick. And I think counting, and Ian was mentioning the chest freezers, that's a lot of labor to dig through all your chest freezers and keep track of all of that usually people don't consider.
Could you maybe touch a little bit about kind of your strategy for acquiring new customers and maybe where you put energy and resources into that piece?
I would totally agree that social media is not very useful, especially if you're paying. I'm surprised that Seven Sons is getting that kind of return on that type of post. So they must know something I don't know, but it's fine. I find that advertising on social media is of minimal value. They probably have an easier funnel in their website than we do. It's certainly not as easy on our website to sign up because you can't order on our website. So maybe that's a problem. But I find that social media is really hard. The search engine optimization, the SEO stuff, putting that stuff on your blog, getting yourself linked there that they talked about is super smart. A lot of it is just volume. We send out a newsletter that gets read a fair amount, that boosts our analytics. It looks like we're a popular site. If you search for pasture-raised meat and you're in our region, we might be the very top hit on Google. And that is just because of search engine optimization, of having enough volume of hits to our website. People have to go to our website every month, or they're going to have an item show up, and that's going to hit on the analytics. So every time we send out an email, your order is coming due, traffic to our website just goes crazy because there's a couple thousand people that if they don't want anything, they have to log in, and that makes Google think that we're a really good website, to go to. So there's a lot of things that are kind of accidental that we didn't really plan, that after the fact we realized, oh, that's part of the reason why our search results are there. I think the marketing for like the Google search ads and the Bing search ads. Those search ads are pretty useful, but they're a couple dollars a click, and a lot of those clicks are just dead end clicks that they're not really intending to go to your site. So those are the most useful things. Word of mouth, though, I mean, even just directly asking your customers, can you please tell your friends, we need to have some more people, members or customers, and we'd love to have you share about our story. And Nextdoor is another. I think the Nextdoor is a really good one. If you have customers who are willing to share, if they're on the Nextdoor social media platform, that's like just their little neighborhood. And if you can, especially if you have a host site that's hosting through like us, you can ask them to share, hey, I'm a host site. I just want to let everybody know that they've got a winter member drive, and we'd love to have you pick up your food at our house. So those, especially Nextdoor, I think is super relevant social media. It's hyper local.
Awesome. All right, maybe for the last few questions, where's TC Farm hoping to be in 5 or 10 years, and kind of what are you and Ian, what are you both most excited about for the future?
Do you want to go, Ian, where you want to be?
Sure. We want to just get to the point where we're really consistent. I mean, a lot of times when we went through farm beginnings and journey person and conversation with my wife, other people ask, what do you want to raise? Where do you want to be in this time? And really my answer has always been, I want to be living a good lifestyle and making enough money to make it worth it. Like, I like growing things. I could enjoy growing vegetables. I could enjoy raising pigs. I like raising chickens. I like being outside and working. And so really my goal is to have things at a point where, our land is being well cared for, we're getting enough sleep, and we're making enough money. And those things have all been getting closer. But I'm getting older, I'm going to be 50 before all that long. And so my window for having this come together to really be hitting on all those cylinders, it's not, I'm not going to be able to keep doing this forever. So my goal is that in a couple of years, we're at a scale and efficiencies that are really making sense. And the sooner the better. But so it's really not for me about the number of chickens we're doing or the size we are, but it's about being at a size where we feel pretty stable. We could grow, but where all those pieces are working and we feel we've reached kind of a stable level. That's where I hope to be in a couple of years.
Do you think if we just stop changing things, and maybe there's a question I should ask offline, but like if everything just stayed as it was, there was no new grants and no new projects and no new grain bins, and if we just stopped for a year, because Andrew yells at me about this all the time, stop changing things, Jack.
Yeah.
If we just stopped, would that feel stable, do you think, or is that a fool's errand?
That's a huge question. And that's the question that our financial advisor keeps asking us too. A couple of financial advisors we've worked with, they're like, you got to stop investing in just positive cash flow. Because these grants are great, but you have to put in money on top of them. And unless you're going to pay $8,000 extra bucks for them to come install everything on your feed system, you're out there doing that labor yourself. So that's a huge question for us. Is it, what would it be like if we just stayed at the current level and stopped trying to even make things more efficient? And I don't have the answer to that, but it's a really important question to consider, because you can always see getting bigger as being better. I think the answer is this. I think we need to grow a little bit more. Just looking at some of the efficiencies of what we have, I think some more growth is good, but I do think we need to get to a point where we can say, okay, if we get to this level within a couple of years, this is going to be consistent without growing more than that.
Well, I'll concur that my goals is to have my life feel stable and manageable, and I'm not worried about all these other things and constantly changing and everything. And I also feel I've said this for every year, and my wife and Andrew say the same thing, like you're just never going to stop and keep iterating. But I really intend to, what can we do to just make it more of a lifestyle sustainable for me? What can we do to get to the point where those in our farm network are at that level of efficiency, where it is more of a sustainable lifestyle? And even if we're not all making $1 jillion, what can we do to do that? So for us, that's part of where I think if we push through, we get a little more control at a corporate level of having that distribution, that warehouse, getting a big enough scale where our deliveries are economical and we can actually pull them off, and we can pay our employees a fair wage and healthcare and all those kinds of things that seem out of reach and out of lives. If we can get to that, then I think I would really like to see us opening that up. So my goal is to open that up and basically try to be a connecting point for everybody else, so that, hey, we almost got to this economy of scale where we can do it efficiently, and as a larger group, you know, even if it's not organic, or maybe it's this, but or you're making candles, you know, if we can make a marketplace where that distribution logistic piece, I just feel is really difficult. So I'd like to basically build a business where separate of what we're doing, that's its own sustainable standalone piece that is just available to others in the community, and that also makes my business, you know, more stable as a partnership with other people, even if we're not directly, you know, selling any of their products or vice versa. So.
And if I were going to put a rough guess on scale, I would say that to do well, I've talked to people who are wholesaling for less than we are. And I know the numbers that they put out there for doing chickens is they don't think they can be profitable wholesaling chickens until they're around 10 or 20,000 birds per year. And I haven't gone through all their numbers and analyzed that, but that's what I hear people telling me, at least. And I think our goal would be probably, you know, I think to really work this well, probably getting close to 10,000 birds a year, 10,000 meat birds a year, and maybe a 1,500, 2,000 laying hens is probably an area where we could be pretty profitable at the kind of price.
And do you see your costs going down at that point? Like would our retail price, if you were selling 10,000 birds, assuming we had a little bit better setup with processing, which you know is an issue for that, but if we had 10,000 birds at your farm, you know, for meat birds, does that lower the retail price to the customer, make it more accessible? For just people know, like, our retail birds, so our normal product is, our premium product, I guess, is a Red Ranger that's organic raised, and is out on pasture, and the whole birds for that retail for like $6.50, and then cut up chicken breasts for that are like $16, $17 a pound. So that's kind of our scale of what we have to sell retail to make it work back on the other side.
I think that's where we're gonna have to stop it for tonight. I think those are a lot of good questions that we can all think about next couple of days and weeks and years. And yeah, thanks to you both for the presentation. And Alex, do you have any closing thoughts you want to mention?
No, just that even just watching you two go back and forth, I know there's always more work to be done. I think there was a wealth of information shared with us today, and I hope folks just kind of continue to go into the winter season and the new year and be able to look back on this year, feel good about what you've done, and what you're doing for your communities, and continue to come together with us so that we can keep learning from each other and keep building community. We can't turn it around on a dime tomorrow, but just really appreciate everybody showing up tonight to work on these things. And thank you so much. Go eat food.
Yeah, congrats on everybody making it 4.5 hours on Zoom.
I know. I wish I could give you all a badge or something, but thank you.
Thank you guys for organizing. You put a lot of thought and planning into it. I appreciated seeing Seven Sons stuff, so thanks for that time.
Oh, thanks, Jack. And Ian. Good night, everybody.